There are just a few seats left. If you're going to join us for the opening, please come to the plenary right now. Worst case, if everything is full, we have a live streaming in workshop 3 and 4, just in case we need an overfill. Kindly take your seats, and we'll start the program right away. Well, warm greetings, everyone. Please take your seats. One or two still left here. Before we do get started fully, I'd like to give a bit of notice to your safety and your comfort during our Research and Innovation Week. As you'll see, the emergency exits are clearly marked with the green signs we all know. There are alarms in the building in case there's a fire or some kind of an emergency, and there are no planned trial alarms. So if there's an alarm, we should make our way calmly, please, to the emergency exits. We also have first aid on site, and so if anybody is feeling uncomfortable or unwell, please seek a member of staff, myself, any of the team, and we'll make sure that everyone leaves the event at the end of the week healthy and safe. So a very warm welcome from myself, Andrew Walker. It's a delight to be back here in this wonderful event for a wonderful, very rich week of research and innovation. This is the EC flagship for that topic. And not only do we have all of you here in person in the plenary in Brussels, but many of you also joining online from your offices and homes. A warm greeting to you. Thank you. So we're going to look into a 40-year journey of research and innovation and the framework programs which have looked after the lives of our citizens and the role of innovation over the decades. We'll look into the future of research and innovation for sure, how innovation is contributing to the EU political agenda, and also, especially today, be celebrating past and current achievements. This week consists of 3 main events, and those of you that are familiar with the events in the past will know this is the first time we brought all 3 together. We have the EIC Summit, we have the Belgian Presidency Conference on Innovation Procurement, and we have the European R&I Days, a very rich program of conference, exhibition, workshops, networking, and we hope you're all going to really enjoy that. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our main host for the week, the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, Iliana Ivanova.
Thank you very much, dear Minister Borsu, esteemed guests, dear researchers, innovators, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to open the European Research and Innovation Week 2024. I'm happy to see so many of you attending in person and online, and the great interest that you have in European research and innovation. This week ahead of us promises to be a stimulating blend of exchange, dialogue, and shared insights. Even more so as we find ourselves at an important crossroads of our common journey. This year we mark the 40th anniversary of our Research and Innovation Framework Program. So it is a perfect moment to reflect on the past, the present, and the future. Looking back over the past 40 years, our framework programs have become beacons of excellence. They have significantly bolstered the EU's competitiveness and delivered concrete solutions. The collective efforts supported by European funding have delivered results that individual member states would have not been able to achieve alone. They allow for better, faster, and more efficient implementation of our common objectives. By pooling resources, supporting collaboration and excellence-based competition, we build on a critical mass of money and talent, avoiding duplication of efforts. Our just completed evaluation of Horizon 2020 shows that each euro spent ultimately will bring 5 euros in benefits by 2040. And the program builds the scientific foundations to allow us to react much faster. The consolidation of our EU research and innovation capacities with myriads of scientific breakthroughs in fields such as medical sciences, quantum mechanics, chemical engineering, stakeholders. For example, only EU-level action can overcome the thin distribution of millions of patients affected by rare diseases, or allow the EU to reinforce the positioning of its strategic value chains in future batteries, advanced materials, or hydrogen fuels. You will have a chance over this week to explore some of the most impressive achievements that Europe has made possible. We have some shining projects in our R&I exhibition. Take the smallest molecule, hydrogen. Thanks to 40 years of investments in hydrogen through our programs, Europe now is a global leader in hydrogen electrolyzer capacity deployment. Research and innovation activities first focused on developing technology to produce hydrogen. It is now being used to decarbonize industries and transport. Or the state-of-the-art supercomputers, machines thousands of times more powerful than a desktop computer that are making breakthroughs in climate modeling, personalized medicine, energy-saving strategies, and epidemic control. Through investments in the framework programs, the EU has created a world-class public network of 8 interconnected supercomputers throughout Europe. 3 of these are among the top 10 supercomputers in the world, and we are now further upgrading these supercomputers to artificial intelligence capabilities. And there are many other areas in which sustained investments over 40 years allowed us to make giant leaps. We're learning from this long-term experience to improve the program and deliver more with our present and for our future. Earlier this year, we published the ex-post evaluation of Horizon 2020, which demonstrated the high value for money of the program. It significantly enhanced the quality of research and innovation in Europe and supported larger scale, more complex, and more ambitious activities that would not be possible without EU support. Over 7 years, Horizon 2020 attracted over 1 million applications from 177 countries. We funded more than 35,000 projects. But to some extent, it has been victim of its own success. An additional 159 billion would have been needed to fund all these high-quality proposals. We can do a lot at EU level, but we cannot do it alone. And the strong budget for EU research and innovation needs to go hand in hand with a strong, performing national and regional R&I systems. We're putting a lot of these improvements into practice. For example, on simplification, I can already tell you that beneficiaries will see their reporting simplified as of May, with the possibility to opt for a new unit cost to declare their personnel costs. We will also launch today a revamped funding and tenders portal to offer simpler and smarter access to funding opportunities and information. The portal will also include new guidelines for our beneficiaries to support the responsible use of generative artificial intelligence in science that were developed in cooperation with stakeholders. And this will be one of the announcements of this week, but there will be plenty of others. In particular, the Horizon Europe Strategic Plan 2025-2027, setting out our priorities for the last 3 years of our current framework program, will be adopted also this week. Today, we are publishing the European Innovation Council Impact Report. It shows that the EIC has brought tangible economic benefits to the European deep tech ecosystem. We will also announce companies that will receive targeted support from the EIC and new additions to the group of the EIC ambassadors. We will publish also the first report on implementation of the new European Innovation Agenda, preparing a new momentum for innovation made in Europe. On Thursday, we will discuss measures to make research careers more attractive and sustainable. And last but not least, over the week, we will hand out some awards for inspiring achievements. The winners of this year's Women Innovators Prizes later today, the winners of the Innovative Procurement Prize on Wednesday, and on Thursday we will celebrate the efforts of mayors receiving the label of the EU Mission for Climate Neutral and Smart Cities. This week we will also reflect about the future, as investing in research and innovation is investing in our future. The exchanges at this year's R&I Week will be a very important input for our deliberations on the future of the framework program. Let's make it a milestone in building collectively a strong case for European research and innovation. I want to hear your stories, and I'm certain that Europe also needs to hear these great stories. Thank you for your engagement, and I wish you a very successful R&I Days. Thank you.
Many thanks, Ileana. And now I'd like to introduce our local host, if you want to put it that way, the Minister of the Economy, Foreign Trade, Spatial Planning and Agriculture in Belgium, the Vice President of Wallonia, Minister Willy Bossou.
Thank you. Dear Commissioner Ivanova, dear researchers, innovators, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, I am honored to stand before you today at this Research and Innovation Days, an event that brings together the brightest minds and boldest innovators from across Europe. As you already know, of course, Belgium currently holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union. In our program for this 6 challenging yet stimulating months, we have outlined a few priorities in terms of research and innovation that are particularly linked to this week's program. Indeed, we, as presidency, believe that research and innovation plays a pivotal role in achieving the ambitious objectives of the European Union. Research and innovation are, of course, essential for addressing urgent societal, economic, and global challenges, such as climate change, health, and digital transformation. We are convinced that research and innovation is our foremost catalyst for achieving greater open strategic autonomy for Europe and for overcoming the most pressing contemporary issues. The upcoming discussions on the exploration of the research and innovation dimension of the Green Deal will certainly prove me right. It is also imperative to recognize the crucial role of research and innovation in enhancing the competitiveness of the EU on a global stage. Through permanent advances in science and technology, we can, of course, secure a leadership position, ensure a degree of sovereignty, and reduce our strategic dependencies by investing in cutting-edge solutions and fostering a culture of innovation. We empower our industry to thrive a competitive international landscape, in particular in critical net zero or digital technologies, by example. It is therefore crucial to prioritize and invest in the strategic strengths of the EU research and innovation landscape, such as already mentioned by the Commissioner, such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and semiconductor technology. These areas not only drive economic growth, but also strengthen our resilience and autonomy. Furthermore, it is also essential to emphasize the articulation of research and innovation with digital and industrial challenges. This integration ensures that our research and innovation efforts are closely aligned with the broader objectives of strengthening Europe's digital infrastructure and also industrial capabilities, thereby maximizing their impact on our society and, of course, on our economy. In this regard, that's so important to welcome the initiative recently put in place by the Commission, the communication, by example, on advanced materials for industrial leadership. This year, nearly an entire week is dedicated to research and innovation, with 3 consecutive events already mentioned, each with its own focus and audience. This linkage is not a coincidence, but rather a concrete and deliberate effort. The week brings together various stakeholders within the research and innovation ecosystem, from academia to civil society, but also including the private and the public sector. The latter in particular is often overlooked. The Belgian presidency attaches great importance to public innovation procurement. Public entities not only play a role in providing traditional grants to researchers and enterprise, but can also act as buyers of innovative solutions. By buying innovations public entities not only improve their own services, but also help concretely companies bridge the innovation gap, by example. As first customer, public institutions can contribute also concretely to the valorization of science and research. In that context, it's also important to remember that the focus must be put on the consolidation of the European research area, which embodies the ambition to create a single, borderless market for research, for innovation, and for technology across the EU. This week, there will also be a session dedicated to knowledge valorization. I can only welcome these discussions, as knowledge valorization holds an important place in our priorities in the form of Council conclusions and expected Council conclusions in a few weeks. Indeed, we strongly believe that a better valorization of knowledge is key for Europe's competitiveness and strategic autonomy, reducing the innovation gap among member states, overcoming the valley of death, and tailoring academic research with the needs of society, policymakers, and also the industry. To make it happen, the stakeholders I have just mentioned, society, policymakers, and industry, need to be better connected with science. If we want to address key societal and economic challenges, we need to enhance trust and engagement in science. To this end, tools such as evidence-informed policymaking, tailored training programs, and science communication are particularly useful. Interdisciplinary and intersectoral collaboration are also central in that process, and they promote sustainable development, but also societal progress, and provide scientific evidence to policymakers. This holistic and interconnected approach reflects the EU's commitment to address specific urgent challenges by fostering a collaborative culture that goes beyond organization and disciplinary boundaries. The EU is in the position to unlock synergies, propelling itself towards a future characterized by innovation, shared prosperity, and collective well-being. Enabling this collaborative spirit in research and innovation has been a pivotal role of the European framework programs for research and innovation since now for 40 years. As we are reflecting on the next framework program, the 10th in 40 years, it's also important to follow up on the current and previous ones. Our presidency, our Belgian presidency, is preparing Council conclusion on the ex-post evaluation of Horizon 2020 that was recently published by the European Commission and that you just mentioned a few minutes ago. We positively welcome this publication and think it was done at the appropriate time in order to identify future opportunities to support the development of economic, scientific, and societal impact of the programs. I am convinced that the following session, entitled A 40-Year Journey, Things You Didn't Know About European Research and Innovation, will shed light on developments of the framework programs while pointing out the progress made, but also the remaining challenges. As we delve into the discussion on research and innovation, we cannot overlook the paramount importance of ensuring a stable but also more ambitious budget for Horizon Europe. Adequate funding is the lifeblood of innovation and progress. It's imperative that we commit to bolstering financial support for Horizon Europe, to foster groundbreaking research, drive technological advancements, and cultivate a thriving innovation ecosystem across Europe. A budget in line with the EU ambitions would not only demonstrate our dedication to the advancements of science and technology, but also we would reinforce our commitment to achieving the twin transition and strengthening the EU position in key global value chains. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's global competitive world and fast-paced technological development, we cannot address the future of research and innovation without mentioning the role played by policy and legislation. To support EU innovation performance, we definitively need an agile regulatory framework conducive to investment in research and innovation, and also strengthening the EU key innovative ecosystem to lead Europe to greater prosperity and resilience. The Belgian presidency is working within the Council on conclusions that further address the importance of investing in valorization of innovation to create this stronger European industry. In this regard, the recent initiative put forward by the European Economic and Social Committee announcing the introduction of an innovation stress test seems to be an interesting tool and an interesting proposal for which further reflection will be needed in a near future. If endorsed at a large scale, it would aim to provide valuable, comprehensive guidance for systematically assessing each new legislation and policy initiative with the objective to make the EU the most attractive region for innovation. In the same way, the Antwerp Declaration for an European Industrial Deal, an industry initiative, underlined the role of this innovation stress test and call for a smarter innovation framework. Nevertheless, the EU cannot act in isolation. The Belgian presidency recalls the importance to foster international cooperation based on openness, dedicated partnerships, and common standards. We must not forget to promote a level playing field and also to underline the fundamental principles and values in line with the global approach to research and innovation. While those advances need to continue in order to support our common European objectives, the question of research security cannot be put aside. And I am glad to see this will be the topic of a session on the central stage of this event. The complexity of the rapidly changing geopolitical context and also the growing strategic competition between parts of the world increasingly affect international cooperation also in research and innovation. As international collaboration remains important for the EU, it's time for the EU to consider its future in this context with perhaps new tools, new perspectives, and also coordinated actions. the upcoming Council recommendation on enhancing research security that is being discussed at this moment at the Council under our presidency will aim to suggest specific actions that the member states, the Commission, and also research organizations could implement in order to mitigate the risk that may accompany international collaboration while respecting, of course, their autonomy. Ladies and gentlemen, in this year we commemorate 40 years of the European Union investment in research and innovation, which has been an instrument in addressing societal challenges and also positioning Europe as a global leader. Reflecting on past achievements and looking forward to upcoming European initiatives in research and innovation provides valuable insights for European citizens and stakeholders. As the European elections approach, that also reflects a particular priority. Let's debate this with member states, with the Commission and a wide range of other stakeholders, how to intensify, how to develop our cooperation to build a critical mass in research and innovation, but also to advance Europe towards a green, digital, healthy, and resilient future for all. Only together we can achieve what is the best for our society, what is also the best for the future European research innovation landscape. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Minister, many thanks. So the scene is set, the energy levels are high, but wisdom and experience teaches us that to set the path forward, we must also remember where we come from. Now, obviously, I'm a Brit, so maybe I am not so aware that 40 years of the program has already been in place, a framework for research and innovation. But how many of you understand and know that we have 40 years of experience with these frameworks? A show of hands, please. Quite a few, but not the majority. Thank goodness, because we've got a little video to experience what those 40 years have been, the things you may not know about the framework programs, to celebrate and appreciate the past, to prepare for that future. And you're about to see decades of impact that have changed our lives for the better. Let's have a look at the video.
In 2024, we're celebrating 40 years of European research and innovation. 4 decades of excellence in collaboration between visionary scientists, innovators, businesses, research organizations, public authorities, and the European Commission.
Our journey started in 1984 with the first framework program for research and technological development. From one multi-annual framework program to the next, we increased investment and broadened our focus to find solutions for emerging global challenges, harness technology, and meet the evolving needs of our societies. Expanding in scope and scale, each framework program has touched every aspect of our lives, mirroring the evolution of the EU itself as a global leader in research and innovation.
So far, 33 Nobel Prize winners have been funded by the framework programs. One such breakthrough was graphene, a material 1 atom thick, yet stronger than steel, that earned EU-funded researchers the 2010 Nobel Prize in Physics. Moving beyond the boundaries of Earth's gravity, space exploration has been made possible through pioneering projects.
With EU support since the late 1990s, European research has contributed to broadening horizons in modern computing and smart devices. Successive chip technology nodes enabled the launch of a new generation of high-performance smartphones. As a leader in supercomputing, Europe boasts a world-class public network of 8 interconnected supercomputers. 3 are currently among the top 10 in the world.
We've tackled the challenges of our time, like COVID-19, by supporting more than 100 projects with over 200 million euros and contributing to the research that led to mRNA vaccines. We pool together European efforts to address rare diseases, control major virus outbreaks, pioneer vaccine research against Ebola, tuberculosis and malaria, and advance treatment capabilities for other viruses. We have significantly contributed to the fight against cancer, funding, among other technologies, a diagnostic tool that helps doctors evaluate the risk of breast and ovarian cancer.
Over the years, our funding expanded to industry-driven research, leading to significant progress and innovations, with new markets emerging, such as highly automated cars. Thanks to European funding, a startup in the 3D printing of medical parts is now a world leader. With the aim of supporting and scaling up more innovative companies, the European Innovation Council is a flagship €10 billion initiative under Horizon Europe, covering such areas as responsible artificial intelligence, advanced materials, biotechnology, quantum, and semiconductors. The EU is now a world leader in hydrogen technologies, used to decarbonize industries and modes of transport, leading to a greener tomorrow.
Our aim is to restore our oceans and waters, ensure ethical farming and food safety, protect ecosystems and biodiversity, and establish climate-resilient regions and smart cities by 2030. Our goal is to make Europe the world's first climate-neutral continent by 2050. On this journey, we have not forgotten our partners. Since 2022, EU funding has supported 125 doctoral and postdoctoral Ukrainian fellows and set up a 20 million initiative targeting Ukrainian tech startups and SMEs. As Europe looks beyond 2024, a commitment to provide researchers and innovators with the resources they need to achieve breakthroughs for the benefit of humankind remains strong. Support us on this endless journey in the pursuit of excellence to reach even greater heights for a brighter tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the 2024 Research and Innovation Week. Next on our agenda, we have Europe, a scientific powerhouse. And I'd like to hand over the word to Harriet Bulkley. Harriet.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Stand at that one, right? Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody to this next part of our plenary session. Today we're going to be joined by 3 leading researchers across Europe. So we've heard about the importance of scientific research and how politically imperative it is for us to be thinking about these issues right now. But we also need to hear, as we learned earlier, about the stories behind this. What is it that's driving our colleagues across Europe to undertake such fundamental work? And we're going to be joined by 3 different researchers, but what they all have in common is that they've been funded by the European Research Council, the premier European funding organization for excellence in frontier research. Since it's been created in 2007, it's demonstrated amazing creativity and talent of Europe's best researchers from across the whole region. Between them, ERC grantees have won 14 of those Nobel Prizes you just heard about, 6 field medals, 11 Wolf Prizes, and many other international prizes. But as we look ahead to the future of research in Europe, can we really remain a scientific powerhouse? We're going to discuss and debate this with colleagues on stage, who I will introduce a bit later. But we're going to hear also their personal journeys about what does it actually take to produce the best groundbreaking research in Europe. So first of all, I'm absolutely delighted and honored to welcome to us, to join us today online, Professor Anne Le Huillier, a French-Swedish physicist and professor of atomic physics at Lund University in Sweden. Anne, together with her colleagues Ferenc Krauss, who were both funded by the European Research Council, and Pierre Agostini, were awarded the 2023 Nobel Prize in Physics for, and you'll bear with me here because this is not my field, experimental methods that generate attosecond pulses of light for the study of electron dynamics in matter. Anne, welcome very much for joining us today. We're looking forward to hearing about your story and how important European Research Council funding has been to you in the amazing discoveries you've made in your career. Please join us.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, Anne.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here online. So I'm going to tell you about my career, my path to the Nobel Prize in Physics. And especially I will tell you how it was influenced by European research programs. So it will be a kind of time story. So I will go 10 years by 10 years. I started my research career in France in 1981, and I defended my thesis at the Commissariat à l'énergie atomique in Saclay, in France, in 1986. Then I did a brief postdoc in Sweden, in Gothenburg, and almost very soon I got a permanent position in France at the CEA. In July 1987, I had the chance to participate to an experiment, to a discovery that was going to really impact my career. And that is the reason why I am here today, because I got the Nobel Prize in Physics for this discovery. We were looking at something different, but in an experiment, we observed the generation of very high order harmonics of the laser field. And you have here one of the first spectra. So this shows peaks corresponding to harmonics of the laser field. It's a little bit like harmonics of a musical instrument. Here it's harmonics of light, which are produced during the interaction between the laser and a gas of atoms, in this case, argon. The reason why it was so interesting was that it was conjectured that possibly these high harmonics would lead to the emission of very, very short light pulses in a regime that was never achieved before, in the attosecond regime. 1 attosecond is 10 to the minus 18 second, is very, very short. And the idea is explained on this graph. If these harmonics, as you can see on the top of the graph, are in phase at a certain time, if the maxima happen to be at the same position here, then because of interferences, constructive interferences, you can confine the light into very, very short light pulses in the attosecond regime. But this was just a question, and actually it took us 14 years to be able to answer to this question: do we have attosecond pulses or not? So I'm continuing my journey in the next 10 years. In 1992, this is my first encounter with European research program. We look into these research networks, and it sounds to be a good idea. And we are, this is the third framework program. And we start discussing with a few other labs in the UK and in Sweden the possibility to write an application about harmonic generation in intense laser fields. And preparing this application, we do some experiment in Lund in 92. And this experiment, first of all, it was very successful. And second, this is when I met my future husband. So this was very strong impact on my life. So in 93, I was 6 months visiting scientists in Livermore in the US. And actually this is when we learned that this application, my first European application was successful. Now, in '94, I actually moved to Lund to share my life with my husband, first without any position, so I was commuting between the two countries, working at a distance at a time where this was not so common. But in '95, I get an assistant professor position in Lund, and in '97, I benefited from a program for women and get a professorship in Lund. Now, my second interaction with this European program was in '99, where I coordinated a research training network in the fifth framework program called ATO. And at the time, the idea behind this network sounded a little bit crazy, because we say that in this network, we are going to demonstrate that, yes, we have attosecond light pulses. This network really included everyone in Europe working in the field. And I think this was very important, because we in Europe, we started really interacting with each other and sharing ideas and sharing experience results. So I think one of the reasons for me that attosecond is so strong in Europe is because of these programs that pushed us to work together. So as I said, the idea behind this network seemed a little bit crazy. How are we going to measure these pulses? But actually, the results were obtained already the first year of when this network was granted in 2001, thanks to my two colleagues that are co-laureates of this Nobel Prize. Pierre Agostini managed to measure pulses of 250 attosecond in a train, in a sequence of pulses, while Fehr Cross independently and almost at the same time managed to measure actually individual attosecond pulses. So this network was very successful, both scientifically and also to make sure that the research in Europe was really together. So I'm going to the next 10 years. This was maybe a difficult time for me in Sweden. It was difficult to get some good funding. And I really, for me, the Marie Curie actions have been really important. The research networks, I mentioned two of them before, but there were going to be several. And also the individual postdoctoral fellowships. This was very important. This has been very important during my whole career. Another important European instrument for us is the collaboration via transnational access to laser infrastructures. And the name of what we used changed during the years, but now it's called Laser Lab Europe. So we have had a lot of collaborations which were financed by this access to laser infrastructure. And this also has been during my whole career. Another network or early stage training, which I coordinated during the sixth framework program, is called MaxLabs. And the idea was to compare and to use experience from using synchrotron radiation or laser radiation, and to combine the two types of radiation. Now, a big step happened to me when I got my first ERC grant. This was the first call from ERC. So this is the project is called ALMA. It was a big step because it was a lot of external funding. It was also a lot of prestige coupled to this, and I'm sure that it generated more local funding thanks to this ERC grant. At the end, I just want to mention here the UNESCO L'Oréal Award. for Women in Science, where I was representing Europe. I think has been an important step in my career. In 2013, I had a very good student, actually coming from Portugal, and he was a very creative person, and he invented a technique called dispersion scan or D-scan. I'm not going to explain what this is, but this is a technique to characterize laser pulses. So we wrote a patent. We created a small company, a startup called Sphere Ultrafast Photonics, which is located in Porto, and we applied for a proof of concept of the ERC. And this was accepted in 2014 and led to a device. You see a photograph on this slide. And this is only the first step of a series of innovation, a little bit triggered by this research, very, very basic research within this ERC grant. So when you get an ERC grant and the project is finished, you really want to have a second one because it's really extremely good funding. So in 2014, I applied for a new advanced grant and I got it. So now I switch from the physics of the light, of the attosecond pulses, to really using these pulses in atomic physics. And I also start to pay back I become also a panel member of the ERC, and I worked for evaluating the consolidator grants and twice and then twice to evaluate synergy grant. Now, at the end of this ERC project, we applied for another proof of concept, which was also granted, and with the same startup company, leading to another device that you see here. Now, in 2021, I applied for a third one, which I also got. So now we go towards quantum physics of using attosecond pulses. And we are still actually within this project at the moment. Another proof of concept, which is a different design, and this is, again, we are in the middle of this project. This was accepted just a few weeks before the announcement of the Nobel Prize in Physics, which makes that I don't have time to do physics anymore, but that's how it is. Yeah. Just for this continuing this story, we decided to go to the next step. This is not myself, but my young colleague of mine that is leading now a EIC project on this device that you see here, pushing into the next phase of innovation. So to conclude, I would like to little bit, this is some of thinking about this almost 40 years of research. First of all, this is extremely basic research, which is driven by curiosity. When we discovered high-order harmonics, we were actually looking for something different, and we saw this instead. So it was really unexpected and also very, very interesting. It took us 14 years to really demonstrate that this high harmonics would be in the time domain very, very, very short light pulses. So this was achieved in 2001. Then the next step was really to use these pulses for application, to look at the motion of electron using using this attosecond pulse. And this took, again, 20 years, and we are just scratching the beginning. We're just beginning to look at this very, very, very short time scale. And this has application in many areas, in chemistry, condensed matter physics, ultrafast electronics, ultrafast quantum dynamics, which is the subject of my latest ERC grant. All of this is still very, very basic. We don't really know where we are going. It's really we are far from application for tomorrow's society. The last thing, industrial application is emerging. And I'm very happy about that because now we have something really more applied in the semiconductor industry and other application, which was also not expected from all of this. So my message here is please continue finance basic research. This is very important. Of course, innovation and applied research is also important, but I think the best application are those that come out of this basic research where you don't know where you are going, which was really the case in this case. I want to finish by show you a picture of my research group on the 10th of December 2023, so celebrating the Nobel Prize. So it's a rather big research group. It's very, very European. I don't know why. This is, of course, thanks to this international level that we have, and thanks to European programs. This is the list of nationality that we have in this group that is actually extremely pleasant to work together. I would like to show that we have 10 women, 17 men, so the gender balance is not too bad, especially for a field in which is kind of technical. So my last word is thank you very much, European Union. Without the European Union, I don't think I would be here. I don't think I would have moved to Sweden if without the European Union. And so both for my private life and for my research, I don't think I would be here without you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's been wonderful to hear your story and just to reflect on how the 40 years of your career also reflect so much of what Europe has done in the science and innovation space over that time as well. And as we heard from your story, the European research and the ERC have played a fundamental role then in advancing knowledge, but also really critically in training the next generation. I think that really came out from what you were saying. Hundreds of thousands of PhD students and early career researchers have been funded through European science, and about 100,000 from the ERC alone. And it's through all of that work that we're making these discoveries that generate both the knowledge that you shared with us, but it's that basic knowledge that not only underpins the kinds of innovations you were saying may come out after this time, but it's also what really inspires and amazes us. And we can't do without that kind of the awe factor, if you like, that science brings to us. So thank you very much, Anne, for sharing your story with us. And we'll see from our next guest that we also know that ERC-funded researchers have contributed to many of the wider goals that the European Union has, and also to global challenges, from the green and digital transitions to improving health, through addressing demographic trends. We're making breakthroughs across all of those different areas through fundamental research of the kind that Anne has shared with us. So I'm really pleased to be joined by two other ERC-funded researchers today. I'm going to give them each a brief introduction, and then I'm going to ask a few questions about their journeys, their stories, and where they see European research going in the future. So Patrick Verstaken, professor at KU Leuven, has made important contributions to our understanding of synaptic function in health and neurodegenerative disease. Using fruit flies and human neurons derived from embryonic stem cells, Patrick's work has focused on key proteins, lipids, and mitochondria that regulate synaptic activity and how these molecules and organelles are misregulated in Parkinson's disease. And we look forward to hearing more about your story, Patrick. Thank you for being here with us. And Roberto Navigili is a professor of natural language processing in the Department of Computer Control and Management Engineering at the Sapienza University of Rome, the head of the Sapienza NLP group and an ACL fellow. In 2013, he received the Marco Somolvicchi AI Prize, awarded to the best young Italian researcher in AI. He's a creator of BabelNet and also the co-founder of Babelscape, an innovative spin-off company focusing on multilingual natural language processing. Roberto, thank you and very much welcome to join us today. So both of you, of course, have had ERC funding as well as other European funding and other national funding. But Patrick, if I can turn to you and ask you, can you tell us a little bit about how your ERC-funded projects have been instrumental to the kind of work that you do? Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. So for me, ERC has made, it's been life-changing, essentially. So I've had 4 ERC grants so far. The last one has really allowed me to take an important leap forward. We're doing research that otherwise we really wouldn't have started. We became interested in looking at why people at old age are developing dementia, and started to see similarities in an odd animal species, in hamsters and also in squirrels. When they're going into hibernation, they do something very similar to what is happening in people that are suffering from dementia.
Okay.
And so realizing that, I wrote a project in trying to understand how these hamsters, when they're going into hibernation and are losing parts of their brain, how they can regenerate this. And in taking the elements of hamster regeneration back into people, trying to counteract what is happening in those patients with dementia, we hope to counteract what is going on there. So ERC for me has been fundamental in terms of being able to take steps forward, leaps forward that otherwise would have been hard to achieve. And there's another element, for me at least, beyond just the funding, and that has been that every single time I came at the end of this 5-year period, I sat down and I took a long thought, and I wanted to define what is, for me, the next step, the next big leap forward. And I think many researchers across Europe are doing that, and ERC is pushing researchers to do that. So it goes just beyond the funding, if you ask me as well.
Yeah. So sort of driving that thinking process, that thought process, that, in a sense, that kind of creative and innovative process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fantastic. And Roberto, of course, you've also won ERC Starting Consolidated grants, and you brought a whole set of new ways of understanding computer language learning and translation, both closer to society and also closer to the market, I guess. So could you tell us a little bit about your funded projects and what they've enabled for you?
Yeah, so the first thing was to create a research group from scratch. I didn't have any group, so it was creating a big group that still stays today. In Rome, doing NLP was really the first important achievement. And that allowed to make our dreams come true. Because we wanted to enable semantic, true understanding of language, which is not only the processing of the lexical level, the words, like how many times do we talk and we don't understand each other exactly. What do we mean by that? Because we don't understand necessarily all the implications, the meanings that we want to convey with our language. And so associating concepts and moving from a lexical level to the semantic level, like Plato's hyperuranium in a sense, right? So moving to a semantic dimension was our goal, and we achieved it. And we created BubbleNet, as you mentioned, and thanks to this, we attracted the interest of big public bodies, big companies, and we created a company that ironically today is celebrating 8 years. Okay. Really today, it's amazing.
Oh, wow.
By chance.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. And it allows to keep alive the project because, BubbleNet is the foundation of what we did then in the second grant, which is understanding the meaning of entire sentences rather than just a single word in context. And so now thanks to the company, we can also bring to the market these ideas, make them more mature, and continue doing research and also innovation at the same time. So this is really an amazing result, and this is all thanks to throwing a seed and then after some years, making it become a beautiful garden. So that's the metaphor I like to use. It's really beautiful.
That's a very good metaphor. I think just talking to both of you and also hearing from Anne earlier, what strikes me really is that kind of, we often sort of divide the fundamental sciences over here, and we do it for its own sake, and then we do applied science over here. But actually the intricate connections between the two of them and the way in which curiosity-driven science is it's not a direct lead to innovation, of course, but it drives our thinking forward. It drives our ability to kind of stay curious and to work out what the next challenge is in ways that are then allowing us to address these societal challenges. And so Europe's historical focus on being the powerhouse of science, of course, seems absolutely fundamental to both of your careers. And I suppose, this part of the session we're supposed to be looking forward a little bit. I think the whole week we'll start to look forward. We heard earlier that there's going to be lots of announcements and things coming up. But if you had one wish or one lesson for us to look at, if we take it forward into the next framework program, what would it be? What's your lesson or idea or wish for the next set of funding that you'd like, the esteemed guests around us who might be able to shape what it is that Europe wants to do in this place to learn? What would you say? Do you want to go first, Roberto?
Yeah, so certainly I would say, can I use at least two directions, like agility and efficiency. There's a lot of overhead in writing project proposals, in reviewing all these proposals. Sometimes there are a lot of calls with 3-5% acceptance rate. So it's really frustrating for researchers and also for reviewers who are also researchers, to spend time on this. And so I think going in this direction and putting more money on research is really essential, because it will enable more to throw more seeds.
Yeah.
So I think
or you might just see people leaving because they can't face the small chances of success. Yeah. So that was one direction you had. Yeah.
Yeah, efficiency and agility.
Okay.
So these two things are crucial, and this fragmentation of the research there's so many projects funded by the EU, but it would be great if we could avoid this fragmentation and increase the interconnections between these projects.
Yeah.
This is something that I would really love to see in the upcoming framework program.
Thanks, Roberta. How about for you, Patrick? What's your wish or lesson for the European Union as we look forward?
Well, I'd get back to what you were saying earlier, and actually we've heard two great examples already, and I can only attest to that. I mean, we have also built startup companies based on super fundamental research. So I would argue, have trust in researchers, have trust in the bright minds that come up with brilliant ideas, and they might sound initially super fundamental. A little wave that you're trying to measure at a ridiculously small time frame. Honestly, I don't fully understand the details either, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that creates value. We would not have built mRNA vaccines if we didn't know what mRNA was, right?
Yeah.
Or if Watson and Crick weren't elucidating the structure of DNA. I mean, we wouldn't have any of that.
Yeah.
Back then, that was super fundamental. And right now, we have the human genome sequence. We can identify mutations. We're even going to diagnostic testing based on that. So without fundamental research, we don't build startup companies. We don't create value. And so it's it's a continuum.
Yeah.
And so I would argue to have trust in those who come up with ideas, fund them and let them incubate, rather than thinking we know what we should be funding.
It's quite interesting, a couple of things that you said there. I think one is about trusting the process. So knowing that science and the way that science is organized, it's rigorous, it's robust, it's legitimate. There's a lot that we can put in there. And I think that second is that, fundamental research helps us to work out what the questions are that we need to answer. My own career started when I found out that cities were also taking action on climate change. And you may have heard earlier on, so I wrote the first book on cities and climate change, and that was in 2001, and you may have heard there's going to be some prizes about that later this week. And that, again, is a field that 20 years ago we didn't even really understand, that climate change was going to be an urban issue. So I think in all of the different fields that we can see across Europe, all of the different disciplines, from the arts, humanities, social sciences, through to all of the fundamental science we've been talking about, that kind of fundamental work needs to happen. But I think some people are now getting a bit concerned, really. I mean, partly it's about whether Europe's kind of backing away from fundamental research, and partly I think it's about, is Europe losing its place that it's historically had as the scientific powerhouse? And we've heard, how important that has been to the kind of amazing work and talent that we've seen on display today. But are you concerned that Europe's reputation may be fading compared to other places in the world, say compared to the US or China, where we know are investing more in science, and we know that their scientists are producing some of the highest, rated, most cited publications? Is this something that comes in your field? Are you concerned about it? Maybe Patrick, you can.
Well,
maybe I should be. Maybe I'm being overly worried. I don't know.
Maybe a little bit. I'm inherently an optimist, so I wouldn't be overly worried yet. If you're looking at the funding NIH, and that's only medical research, is getting, it's multifold higher than the whole framework program on an annual basis. Yeah. So ultimately, there's some worry that we should be looking at slightly more closely. But at the end of the day, we're doing quite well with the types of funding that both nationally and internationally have been provided to research and to innovation. So it's not like we're doing a not so well job. We're doing a fantastic job. We'd be doing an even better job if there were more funding so that all those ideas that all these people across Europe are thinking of are not just, well, largely going in a trash bin. I mean, 10% is being funded at the ERC level, 90% is not. And maybe not all 90% were good ideas. I'm not even arguing with that. But come on, 90%, that's a lot. There's a lot of good ideas in there that are not actually going anywhere.
You know, to take the example of the seeds and the flowers in the gardens, if for every seed you planted only one grew, you would be a bit upset if you were a farmer, right? So maybe it's a good analogy there as well. But Roberto, what concerns do you have about whether Europe can really maintain this role as being a scientific powerhouse?
Yeah, I'll start with an example quickly. Large language models. We have seen, all this upsurge of interest in ChatGPT and the like, and this has attracted a lot of interest. Big companies are involved, and Europe has to have a big role here, play a big role, because otherwise, as an example, but this can be replicated in many other areas, we risk that we form people, and then these people leave the EU, and this shouldn't happen. So we have to make sure that they can stay, do their research if they like it, pure research, innovation, but also at the intersection of the two. This is essential. And to give an example, if we throw these seeds, we can then at some point catch up if we are lagging behind and do some research that takes technology to the next level. Like, for example, large language models are now suffering from hallucinations that we all see, or trustworthiness. All these problems can be tackled by some researchers was maybe ERC funded or EU funded, and it requires more funds, more awareness, better research places, all of this. So I'm concerned, but we just need to be careful and put as much as possible attention on funding.
I mean, and that's such a great example, isn't it, of course, of all of the fundamental research that has been going on in AI and related fields, and then suddenly there's this massive wave of innovation, and we not only need to be ready technologically, but we need to be ready to think about what the social consequences are, what its ethical consequences as well. And of course, the ERC, along with, I'm sure, other European research funding is going into those fields, and so we can be in a good position, but we just need to maintain it, I think. Now, we heard a little bit from Anne earlier, and I think both of you also mentioned it about how important it has been to work with young researchers across Europe. And, but both of you have also alluded to the fact that the competitive, the competitive nature of trying to get a grant these days, potentially the budgets and related to, your chances of success, maybe some of the factors that are shaping whether or not young researchers want to stay in the field. What would be your message to any young researchers tuning in online or here with us in the audience? Is science still worth it? I'm sure you're both going to say yes, but I just want to know why you think it is. Why is it still a good career, and why is it worth some of the pain that they may be going through? Roberto, do you want to kick us off?
The easy answer is stay hungry, stay foolish.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Stay in the EU.
And stay in the EU. Right, that is a slogan to conjure with.
So it's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I think young talents, we need to do our best to keep our talents, allow them to move all around Europe, which is a good thing, and make the best research they want to do. So we need to put them in this position. Yep. So now, how to do this? I think we already talked about a number of these options, giving as many possibilities as possible, but also giving as much information as possible.
Okay.
even myself, I find sometimes difficulties in understanding what can be funded, which schemes. So there are so many calls. So this is also a direction.
We heard earlier that there's going to be a new portal, so maybe that will start to simplify things and make things a bit more accessible. So that could be one thing. Let's see.
Excellent.
Patrick, how about for yourself?
Maybe less bureaucracy would indeed help a lot.
Yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, I need to say yes to answer yes to this question. I mean, I chose this career path, and I'm super enthusiastic that I did. I still am. I just love the fact that we can conduct research on what we come up with and the ideas that we as a team define as, whoa, that's the way forward. Let's give it a go. And we write grants, we present it to our peers, they evaluate, they say, yes, it's a go, and then we can go for it. It's fantastic. I mean, we're free. We can do whatever we want. It's fantastic.
So it's almost as if you're an artist. I mean, there's so much creativity there, so much ability to think freely about what the questions are, what your challenges are. And so, so we hope,
it is obviously.
We hope that, of course, that colleagues who are tuning in will feel like this is, that we've given them some kind of messages of hope for what we see in the future. So for the rest of you who've been here today and who've gathered online, I hope you've enjoyed this short conversation as much as I have, to see the range of talent and knowledge we have producing in Europe and the amazing discoveries it's leading to, which are not only, I think, changing our understanding of the world in these fundamental ways, but also about how we can live well and live together in it. And it has really been truly awe-inspiring to hear everything from tiny, tiny light particles to large language modeling, and how we're actually being able to understand, computing is helping us to now understand one another in different ways, let alone to the links between hamsters and dementia, which is another thing that I didn't think I would learn about today, but definitely have. So I hope you all can see through these individual stories, but also of all of the, awe, wonder, and innovation that it creates. That we've got a job to do, I think, to come together now to really focus on that idea that we do need science to be at the heart of the next framework program. We need a new framework program which really puts science at the heart of Europe. So we can, I think, work together now with colleagues that we've heard from this morning to really make the case for science at the heart of Europe. So thank you both very much for coming today. And yes, I think it's probably now time for a break, but I shall pass on to the rest of the organizers for the rest of today's sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. No break yet.
Oh,
no
sorry,
break
Andrew.
Yet. No, we're going to have a break in about half an hour because we've got a really exciting session coming up right now. I'm going to be introducing a star guest of the event in just a short moment. But before I do so, allow me please to explain, in case you've not already seen, some of the other areas that we have at the event. Of course, you'll all see the exhibition area, and hopefully you'll be able to interact with many of the innovators which have come here to describe what they do, but also to get challenged on them. Remember, many of these innovations are early stage. Many of them need your feedback. So it's not only about consuming in the exhibition, please also give, be generous with your feedback. And then, of course, there is a networking program, B2 Match. You can find the QR codes to download the app. And simultaneously, there are 35 slots with tables where you can book a meeting with everybody that's registered on that app. So I hope you can use those to good effect. We will, of course, be having a cocktail reception this evening around 6 p.m. after we've concluded the opening ceremony here. And then the next two sessions. Firstly, we're going to be talking about tech sovereignty, empowering the European companies to shape the future. Then we'll have the break and a coffee and a tea, get refreshed, go to the exhibition in about half an hour's time, to come back to be able to talk about beyond the horizon, and you all know what that means, preparing for the next framework program. We will then conclude the day at 5 p.m. with the Women Innovation Awards, and that's going to be a very exciting program full of some nice, inspiring stories, and everybody is really on tenterhooks trying to find out exactly who will win that prize. Okay, but I think we're ready for the next part of our program. I'm looking towards tech sovereignty, empowering the European companies to shape the future. And I'd like to introduce you to the head of the European Investment Bank, who's going to talk about this for a short few moments, Nadia Calvino.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to be here today to introduce this session, which has to do with one of the core issues and core challenges of the European Union right now, which is tech sovereignty. And it is a great pleasure to come and talk to you, particularly a great pleasure for me, for 2 or 3 reasons. First of all, because we're going to be talking about a success. The European Innovation Council, the European Research Council, is undoubtedly one of the success stories of the European Union. And it is a success story of a joint cooperation between the European Commission and so many, many partners, including the European Investment Bank. And that is the second reason why I am so proud and so happy to join you today representing the European Investment Bank. And that is that you will be discussing one of the top priorities for the bank going forward. How to ensure that the European Union is at the vanguard of new technologies. How to make sure that we make the twin, green and digital transitions which are ongoing a European success. And tech sovereignty is undoubtedly at the heart of the challenges that we have ahead, but also the opportunities to indeed make sure that we make the most of the ongoing technological transition. It is vital for Europe's future, and it has to do with economic security. We have discovered in the last years that it is not only about being at the forefront, at the vanguard of know-how, it is also about having the industrial capabilities to develop the value chain and ensure that European consumers can have access to this value chain at the best possible conditions. And so this means not only research, not only innovation, it also means technological capabilities, the net zero technologies, and access to critical raw materials. These are issues that some years ago we took for granted. We would never have thought that we needed to have a European strategy and European policies to ensure that we can deliver for the future of Europe. Digitalization and technological innovation are also vital to achieving our climate goals. The European Investment Bank has consolidated its position as the EU's climate bank, so you can understand how important it is to ensure that all these technologies enable us to continue to drive the green transition. And it isn't just enough, as I said a moment ago, to have excellent ideas. We must land them. We must have the financial instruments to support them. There will be a lot of discussion today about grants. There will be a lot of discussion about loans. Let me mention just another of the instruments that we have developed, particularly the European Investment Fund, which is our subsidiary specializing in support to SMEs and scale-ups, which is venture capital. Since the year 2000, the European Investment Bank Group has invested over 270 billion euros in innovation throughout the whole value chain, from research, fundamental research, clean tech, bio and medtech, etc. And the European Investment Fund has consolidated its position as the largest venture capital investor in Europe, supporting almost half of Europe's unicorns that have emerged in the past 15 years. And the European Investment Bank Group is uniquely positioned to nurture excellence in European innovation and to help innovative companies grow and deploy their full potential. By joining our partnership with the European Commission and our technical expertise and the advisory services, we can really make things happen on the ground. Just to mention a couple of examples, last year we invested in a Polish company developing a revolutionary diagnostic to foresee cancer. Also in a German company using artificial intelligence to streamline medical documentation, and a Spanish company that makes solar-powered drones. So there are so many possibilities and so many interesting developments that we can fund through our partnership. Let me close with a brief mention to the European Innovation Council, which is undoubtedly one of our top priorities also going forward. We are responsible, as you probably know, for the investment activity of the European Innovation Council Fund, the venture arm of the European Innovation Council. This fund invests directly in deep tech startups that have market-creating potential, but carry a high risk for public and private investors. So in the first 2 months of this year alone, we have already provided equity to some of the most cutting-edge disruptive sectors. I'm talking about a French company developing quantum processors, whose CEO, I think, is going to participate in the event today, a Spanish quantum computing software firm, and a Dutch industrial robotics company, just to mention a few of the investments we have participated in the first 2 months of the year. Scaling up promising European tech champions has led to the creation of the European Tech Champions Initiative. We launched it barely over a month ago, with contributions from different member states, and it is already invested 1 billion euros, mobilized many more investments, and we need to expand and scale up also this initiative, which is a success that can help make sure that European startups remain European when they get to the growth phase of their business cycle. I wanted to emphasize all these elements because at this point in time, with so many geopolitical challenges and when we have so many difficulties and so many changes around us, I think that there is one key message that we should not forget. And this is, we can really base our actions on success stories, on the positive experience of working together in the European Union that has brought to us many decades of prosperity, growth, and a better system and a better society in Europe and also throughout the world. And I think that that should let us feel quite self-assured when looking to the future and trying to replicate what works, build on what works when we are designing the Europe of the future. Let me close on this positive note, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming discussions. Thank you very much.
Nadia, thank you. Let me hand over straight away to the leader for this session all around tech sovereignty, Amy Lewin.
Hello, I'm Amy. I'm the editor of Sifted, the very best publication covering startups, tech, and venture capital in Europe. Can you please put your hand up if you're a reader? And if you're not, yeah, if you're not, you should really sign up to our newsletters. We're covering everything there is to know about startups, VC, and innovation in Europe every single day. We've got reporters on all of the corners of the continent, from Warsaw to Stockholm, London to Berlin, and they're all getting into what we're talking about here, which is how can we build and boost amazing businesses in Europe. But that's enough about me. I'd now like to ask Lars Froland and Bram Verhoef to come and stand somewhere in front of me. Yeah, pick your table. Yeah, I like this kind of lounging effect. So Lars is an expert in investing in deep tech. He's a lecturer at MIT and a member of the EIC's board. He's also a former special advisor to NATO, where he helped them establish the Defence Innovation Accelerator and its €1 billion Innovation Fund. And Bram is the co-founder and head of artificial intelligence at Accelerate AI, which is a startup developing hardware and software platform for AI. So hot property at the moment. So Lars, if I start with you, when we're talking about tech sovereignty, what do we really mean by that? And what is Europe doing wrong? We got sound on, Lars? Bram,
I can take it.
What's your definition of tech sovereignty?
Well, you can define it in many different ways, right? But the most important thing is, for me at least, that it stays practical. You cannot really close all the borders. You need the tech exchange, you need investment from other countries. So in that sense, we have to keep the equity in Europe, but on the other hand, we must make sure that everything is still practical. But I'm sure Lars has more to say about this.
Okay, so this one is working. So first of all, there's many definitions of tech sovereignty. The one that I'm mostly fond of is the one that sort of looks at sovereignty in the sense that says there's a capability that we need to have in Europe, but at the same time is not disregarding sort of the global supply chain. So it's more about looking at we need a capability in Europe, but that will also come with some external dependencies. And what we need to know is what are those external dependencies, what are the risks of those, and then try to mitigate those risks. So it's an ongoing process in the sense, and what does that in terms of a definition, at least to me, and what we should strive for, is that we then try not to get into a very sort of protectionist sort of vocabulary where, you know, tech sovereignty at the end of the day becomes a rhetoric about actually protecting your incumbents as a member state, and instead looking into Europe and what it can do collectively instead.
Okay, so if we take a more positive, let's boost innovation in Europe rather than go, oh crap, those other places are ahead of us, how can we possibly stop people going over there? What helps? What do we need to do to invest in very early stage innovation out of universities or new companies to help them become global champions and never even want to contemplate leaving the continent?
So there's this nice book called Chip War from Chris Miller. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. In that book, basically, the story is told from a computer chip, going all the way from transistors to today's companies that are building chips to accelerate artificial intelligence. And what you see is that over time, there has been some migration of like, where's the dominant position of technology? So starting always in the US, moving then towards Japan in the 80s, and then following movements towards South Korea and also Taiwan, of course. And what has been crucial in this kind of geographical migration is always that there is a lot of government funding. Government funding really determines where a certain kind of technology becomes dominant all over the world. And I'm very happy to see that the European Union and the European Investment Council in particular is really getting this picture. They're noticing really that investment from such larger kind of institutes is crucial. And it's of course a good starting point to develop your product. But one of the nice benefits is that you get is that other investors like VCs, they see that there is investment in that kind of company, and it attracts those other VCs towards these startups to become even larger. So you create some kind of Matthew effect there, and that is crucial to get like to a very large position.
So I think if I had like a magic wand and I could say that if I had one wish and I could really fundamentally change anything, I think the most impactful you could do right now is to ensure that we have significant follow-on investment, so beyond about 35 million euros in Europe. Like, we are still in this very negative narrative that if we did everything right from the earliest stages until sort of mid-scale and stuff like that, at the end of the day, a lot of companies, we see the domestic equity funding radically go down, and some of them, become a Delaware company and stuff like that, which is not the right narrative for Europe to have. But once again, I think the best way to get out of that problem is not to protect, but to say, what can we do even better? How can we actually have that significant type of follow-on funding? And in a way, what we're missing today is what, the Americans got in 1979 with the prudent man rule that enabled pension funds to go from a single investment into a portfolio approach and then assess their risk, and based on that, they could actually start investing into alternative investments. So some of the key things that we need to do is that we simply need to start using our own money that we're currently not using from our pension funds, but also especially from our high net worth individuals, and from the very, very wealthy family offices across Europe that I would like to have to participate in a different way in funding a company like yours, for example, because if we did so, we'd actually have those family offices that was part of the first or the second industrialization, actually being part of this new industrialization of Europe that we are currently part of. But just to be clear, we are talking so much about protect because we're losing. That's also, by the way, why the US is talking so much about protect, is because it's losing, right? Before you could have a different narrative. So we need to stop talking also differently about it, and sometimes the best way to protect is to promote. And sometimes we forget promote.
Okay, so on the later stage funding, what are some things you've seen around Europe that work to whether it's unlock that pension money, get high net worths more interested in investing, corporates investing, getting those crossover investors from other parts of the world? Like, how can we promote that as an attractive investment opportunity?
So I think we need, definitely in Europe, we need a specific type of fund construction for late stage. And we also need, of course, to the EIC to have significant funding for our follow-on investments. As soon as we get that, we will be that investor that can actually, for some part of it, be the public funder that could actually then crowd in the right type of private capital. The problem is that right now we might not even have the right type of private capital to actually co-invest with when we get to the later stage. If you look at what has happened in the UK, for example, let me give you three examples very quickly. What has happened, for example, in the UK most recently with the pension compact that they made is that they agreed with the pension funds to actually have them put 2% put into alternatives. And you know what? The pension fund asked to be regulated. So there is a way out of this where you actually work with the pension funds in a great way, and I think we need to do that. And some of you might be sitting here, oh, we've heard this one before. The one with the pension funds is actually an old-timer of Brussels, like the one with procurement. But hey, it's actually what needs to be done. And we just need to wake up and actually start doing it, because there's some fundamental things that we need to do. Then I'm very, some of the things that are happening with the Dieter Schwarz Foundation in Heilbronn around AI, just touching upon your subject matter, is one of those things where I at least open my eyes and say, here's a significant individual, a significant foundation that is trying to develop a whole ecosystem. That type of boldness and courage is what I sometimes look for.
So if there are any billionaires in the audience who want to set up an AI campus, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
And the third thing?
The third thing that I would do is I would try to be... we keep talking about that a major place for our startups that are, like your company, a deep tech startup, is our universities. And I've been in this game now for 20 years. And we keep talking about technology transfer, IP, and how we can do this better and better and better. But fundamentally in Europe, if you look at the universities, most of them now do the third mission, it was called, I guess, some time ago. But still, very few universities, through their government, actually get actual funding for the third mission. So sometimes we forget about the boundary conditions and getting the boundary conditions very well. So that's at an earlier stage, but there are some fundamental things that we need to get. We need to get our own house in order.
Yep.
To recreate our own dynamism. And we know what they are, and sometimes it's money, and sometimes it's political will that needs to get people to the table.
On the point about universities, Bram, how important do you see universities being for, I guess, the AI talent pool, but also, running some of the supercomputers we heard about earlier? Like, how do they play into all of this?
I think universities are critical. I myself came from IMEC before, and IMEC is in close collaboration with the KU Leuven, which is a university here nearby. And that kind of the RTO that is there, it really fosters kind of new talent, but also new kind of topics. And actually the kind of AI accelerator that we are currently developing, part of the ideas were actually grown in this RTO. So I think universities are a really good starting point for knowledge, but also, of course, for talent. And we are always looking for the best talent. And this is not only on like the master level, but we also want a lot of really deeply specialized people that have a PhD in a very technical field, because that's the kind of knowledge that we need to really be on top of the business and really differentiate compared to all the competitors. So I think, yes, university is very important. But I think there's more initiative needed to really bring those kind of push towards the market. You should not only stay academic, really move towards this kind of more commercialization of knowledge, these spin-offs, these startups. That's really the most important thing.
And what holds AI startups at universities or AI researchers at university, what holds them back? What are the main kind of pain points that stops them going and raising from the EIC or raising from VCs and hiring a team and making a go of it?
I think part of it is some kind of conservatism that we often have here, a little bit afraid of making this kind of next step, making the jump towards being independent, start up a company and so on. And we also think that like people in the US, they can do much better. And it's true, in the US, the climate is very beneficial for them. They can get really large seed rounds and Series A's. But we can do it here as well. The EIC is helping us out. We have we were very lucky with our VC firms that wanted to invest in us. So it's really possible. But you have to be very ambitious, willing to work really hard, and on the same time also be realistic. You cannot be too dreamy there. So I think it's possible, but the right conditions need to be there, and it's starting. I feel that it's really becoming better, but we need more of that.
On the kind of key strategic technologies, which ones are we winning on? Which ones are we already losing on? Which ones is it unclear?
I think that right now the ones that I think that where we could actually become a winner if we keep investing into this area is probably quantum technologies. Right now, where I see simply also because we have some very, very strong research centers that are now delivering. One of them is from my own backyard, is the Niels Bohr Institute. And once again, we have some very significant foundations, whether in Sweden it's the Wallenbergs, or whether it's in Denmark it's the No Foundation, that actually have that courage to say, for this level where it's more like capacity building, we are putting more money into this maybe than our own government and state. And we have some very interesting initiatives also at the European level. And we also have a program manager with the EIC that's looking into this specifically. So I think in the quantum space right now, we could be winning. Once again, in 5 years, if we need to say once again that we are winning, means that we need to translate this into market. And that means that I think the key problem right now is, especially for an early stage startup, what you actually need is what I call an annoying customer. Right? You need a customer from a very well-developed sector where you know how it is to compete and how a technology can actually enhance your competitiveness, right? So sometimes with these emerging technologies, you shouldn't be afraid to connect them to very developed sectors. In Denmark, for example, it could be shipping, it could be transport, it could be in the biotech sector, of course, where you actually connect the early stage development to those because they know what they want and they'll ask all those annoying questions. And sometimes we miss that part of actually connecting at a very early stage a significant customer. And it helps if they also get on the cap tables. They actually become an investor in that sector as well. So sometimes you need to think about your cap table and your sectors where you actually see your predominant markets. So I hope we'll get there in 4 to 5 years.
And Bram, do you see that? Do enough AI companies have the annoying customers yet? Are enough big companies taking a punt on lots of different up-and-coming LLM or whatever companies and integrating them and having a play with them, or is there still a bit too much kind of, I don't know, uncertainty or fear that we don't understand this new thing?
No, we have great customers.
Not too annoying.
No. And we love to help them out also. When they don't know anything, we will help them to create a solution. And I think that's also part of what we should do, because like in my field, AI, it is a starting field, right? And not many people are used to all these kind of new algorithms that are coming out every week almost. Just keeping track of the literature is a whole task. So we have to help them, and that's why we also need these very specialized people on board. These people that have really done the research and then also have this more entrepreneurial mindset to go that way. And to come back also on these technologies where we think we are winning, I agree with Lars. Quantum is definitely one of those technologies. But we sometimes have the feeling that about artificial intelligence, we hear all the news flash from OpenAI and Microsoft and all these kind of things. So the US is way ahead. I would argue that's not the case. We still have time to really take a big chunk of that market. And it's even imperative to do so, because AI, and of course I'm biased, but it's going to be one of the most important technologies out there, and it will influence all kind of domains. Even like quantum computing, their AI is already being used. So We should really make sure that we have at least some companies in Europe that have a piece of that cake and that can really own that and drive it further.
And when we say we need to do this, what will that take?
So the government funding is important, but the slices, so the tickets that they provide, must also be large enough. In Europe, we sometimes have the feeling that we have a certain amount of finances that we can distribute, but we want to make everyone happy. But I don't think that will work. You need to really target certain kind of startups that are very promising, that show that they have everything on board, also when it comes to people, but also the ideas and the finances already, and really fund those, because this is really a long tail event. There are those really few kind of startups that will eventually make it, and you should really push those forward to make sure that they can make it. And these large tickets, they will make a big difference because they attract always more. It doesn't stop with that one large amount of funding. You attract much more, and that puts you into the position to really compete with the US and Asia.
And is this something? How does the interaction between individual countries? I'm thinking of Mistral is obviously the kind of one of the poster children of AI in Europe right now, and Macron has done such a big job to stimulate the startup economy there. But when it comes to lots of these research-driven innovations, what more can Europe do to link up all the universities, link up what's going on in different countries, and think about it as a kind of united place rather than 20 however many tiny little markets?
Yeah, Denmark is tiny. I think that we can probably do much more. I must admit, we're already doing a lot of things, by the way. Seen from a helicopter perspective, by the way, Horizon Europe is also in a way to actually connect Europe in terms of research, as you probably know, right? So I think one metaphor that I would like to sort of, use here is that, especially in this whole tech sovereignty lingo, in a way, there is a very, very sort of dominant figure which was introduced by Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, where he talked about the US policy as being a small yard with a high fence. Right? The problem is that the yard is getting wider and wider, and the fence is getting higher and higher. And if you use that metaphor, right, it also assumes, by the way, that you have a fantastic and a delicious yard to actually protect. And I think if we just went down the whole protect line here, we could protect as much that there was no yard even to actually, at the end of the day, protect. I think the key part here is moving away from what I'll call from small yards to high fences to common gardens. And I think we'll need to see a lot of establishment within the Commission, within the EU, where several countries on behalf of Europe actually get together and can do a lot of shared structures for developing new type of technologies, for example. Most startups in the deep tech area at a certain point do not need to have their own production facility. They don't need to have their own structure to do advanced experimentation. So this whole thing about that we can actually build something collectively that we can all have access to is something that I think we still haven't really realized. When I was working inside NATO and we were developing something called the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, one of the key things that we put into that is that if you go into that accelerator, you get access to centers for advanced experimentation and early stage production across the alliance. So if you now enter as a part of the accelerator program for Diana, you get a seamless access with a 2-page contract to 178 centers for advanced experimentation across the alliance. Could we do something similar, just in Europe? To say that at a certain point, maybe you don't need it any longer, but as you were entering the EU, you would have a seamless access to whatever you needed, for example, in Denmark or in Sweden or wherever you needed it. And that was the way to actually use the shared infrastructure. No, to make our infrastructure shared. In the biotech area, that will be also my recommendation to do this, because that's where we actually compete a lot.
And would it be your recommendation for the UK to be included in that joint effort?
That'll be beneficial for us and be beneficial for the UK, yes.
Yeah. And if we talk about defence tech, another key strategic area that lots of people aren't quite sure where to go, what do you think Europe's doing well? What could we do more of? Because, we've covered this at Sifted, lots of, especially government organisations seem pretty keen to invest in defence, or at least dual use. Lots of venture capitalists are still a bit hesitant based on their funders. What kind of needs to happen to unlock that industry further?
Well, I can start. I think some of the key fundamentals that needs to happen is that for some countries, they need to say that this is okay, and that's going to be a tough discussion. It's a very sort of sensitive discussion, but these discussions need to be had because we live in a different world now where I think if you just say, I can't do these type of technologies, it's simply not right. At the same time, we have a policy and a regulatory framework in Europe that doesn't allow for a lot of both the military especially, but also dual use. So we need to have an update on that quite quickly so that we can actually get into this space in general. And I just think that I've seen very, very, very interesting companies, and actually many of the interesting companies are simply dual use. AI is also a dual use technology. You might not be a dual use company, but definitely the technology is dual use. It can be used for many things. And if you look into the critical technologies that we now have defined in the European Economic Security Strategy, you'll see that all of those are exactly dual use. So we'll need to figure this one out. My suggestion is that we need to do a quick update on the regulatory framework, but then there's a cultural thing that needs to happen also, and that's going to take time. And then, some countries might be going faster than others, and that's okay.
And on the point about regulation, Bram, is that you're an early stage company? How much is AI regulation a kind of thing that you are thinking about, that you're tracking, and is there anything that regulators around Europe could be doing, you think, to kind of help startups develop in line with where regulation is trending? There's obviously this tricky balance where regulation is inevitably always years behind where the technology is getting to. But how do you kind of approach that?
I think this is a very interesting point. You say regulation is often years behind the technology. I have a feeling that actually in Europe, it's ahead of the technology. So this new AI kind of regulations that recently came out, they might be too soon already. I fully understand why this is needed. And because AI is a dual-use technology, it can be very dangerous. But on the other hand, we must make sure that AI innovation keeps happening in Europe. And if we start to already regulate it from the start, it becomes very difficult to really grow large enough companies in Europe. So it's definitely needed, and especially like in certain kind of verticals, like automotive regulations, you must have it. It's about safety there. But when it comes to general AI regulation, we should be careful there to leave enough of the innovation and then go for regulation later on.
And where do you think governments or big organisations can overstep? Where is there too much involvement, perhaps? More funding, always good?
In a way, yes, more funding is always good. The problem is how you actually use them. If you look at the landscape of Europe right now, I will make the bet to say that there is actually sufficient public funding out there. What is lacking is actually private capital. You could say that from the EIC, we would like to have access to the scale-up facility, of course. But if you look at it more generally, there is a significant amount of public funding that is there. What is missing is also the private capital that actually can sort of activate that type of public capital to actually happen. So I would rather, and by the way, as we saw with the latest budget discussions of the European Union, I'm not sure that the member states are going to pony up for more money. Because if we haven't realized, it's not going very well in Europe, by the way. So, right, in terms of, ponying up with a lot of more money, I don't think it's going to be there. So I think we are forced in a situation where we actually, to be from a car with 8 cylinders, but only driving on 4, if we need to drive on the last 4 cylinders, it is actually the private capital that we need to activate for our own benefit in a completely different way. And that's where we need to be creative. So sometimes the solution cannot just be more public capital. We need to have the private capital, and the patient capital of that source. So what that means here, it means pension funds, insurance companies. By the way, the French have done an incredible job on exactly that. And we also need to get our family office and some of our high net worth individuals much more involved in this whole area.
Which is more important than ever with deep tech because these companies might take longer to reach product market fit to start bringing in revenue.
So if you look at it in a classic fund setup for venture capital, that type of venture capital simply isn't optimized for deep tech. The runtime of the fund is simply too short. That means that the active investment horizon, active time period for the investment is also too short. The way that the whole incentive structures are built in for the partners, also in the fund managing structure, are simply not set up for deep tech. So we need new type of structures and sometimes organizational innovation as well to actually get there. Yes.
And so we've mentioned some of the big names. We've mentioned autonomous vehicles, we've mentioned quantum, we've mentioned AI. But what are some of the maybe slightly less mature sectors that you think are of strategic importance in Europe that people here should be checking out? Bram?
Yeah, I wouldn't say less mature, but biotech is definitely very important. And when it comes to less mature, then maybe blockchain technology. That's also something that there's a lot of potential there to create kind of a new kind of internet out there that is beneficial to all kind of contributors. And that is not only beneficial for the one big corporation like a Facebook or a Meta in this case, or Google and so on. So with blockchain, individual developers get their own piece of the cake, and it's often overlooked because of the negative connotation with like bitcoins and so on. But the technology itself is very valuable, and that is something I think we should also, as Europe, really look towards.
And on biotech, what do the companies you encounter, what do they really need? Lab space is an issue, isn't it? What are some of the other things that are particular problems to that sector?
No, I think especially for biotech and those that are not the big ones in biotech is actually access to that type of lab space, and probably also figuring out what is actually the boundary conditions and what cannot and what can we and what can we not do, right? Because biotech can also be, it's a biosecurity here, which is not simple to, in a way, to talk about. I just want to mention that one of the key things that I'm quite interested in right now in Europe is that we, quite fast, I think we need to get a space launch capability. That's one of the key things that I think that we need to do, and we need to, not as a sovereignty play. I meet a lot of companies that sort of want to pitch to me because, oh, I can do this the European way. I was like, yeah, that's fine, but can you do it better? Right? Don't just pitch me because you're in Europe, right? That's not an argument in itself to me. You need to be a better company as well, in terms of all the things that you look at. But a space launch capability, which is obviously also dual use, I think is going to be quite critical that we get that up and running quite fast.
Amazing.
And then can I just ask you, so there's one thing when you become asked about, what's the next thing in tech? The key point is, of course, for us to say, at least for me, I don't know. So what we need to be sure of is that we have systems that can appreciate, the unknown in this way, right? And I think to go in a completely different direction, I think sometimes what we have lost in Europe is the appreciation of the heretical, the appreciation of those ideas that lies outside of a scientific paradigm. And I think that will be fantastic if we could have those type of institutions, both in Brussels, but also in the member states, with the sole purpose is to appreciate those ideas that allow us at the outskirts of our current scientific paradigm. Because as we know, as you most times go through peer review, those ideas are rarely picked up and simply do not become funded. 2013, two very small companies were funded by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. Those two companies were very small. They were working on something very science fictional that no one else would actually fund. It was called mRNA, and those two companies were Moderna and CureVac. 2013, somebody had the guts to bet on something that other people were saying you shouldn't. So we need to have that ability. Otherwise, we cannot appreciate what later on becomes so fundamental for us.
Amazing. I mean, we could end there, but we've got one more minute. So, Bram, any messages for the audience that you would also like for boosting our tech sovereignty?
The audience consists of a lot of EIC members, VCs, and so on. So I would say keep on investing. Invest with big tickets, and also make sure that you invest strategically. So the most important fields and also the most important startups so that they can really grow.
Amazing. Lars, any final words?
No final words. I think the startups needs to have the final words in these conversations. There you go.
Thank you, guys. This has been very thought-provoking.
Amy, gentlemen, thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a short break and to use those networking opportunities. Check out the exhibition. We'll regroup here in 15 minutes, start punctually at 20 past the hour. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get kicked off with our next session. Please take your seats. Come on into the plenary if you want to learn all about the future. Beyond the horizon, preparing for the next framework agreement, about to start in the plenary. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the next session, Beyond the Horizon, preparing for the next framework program. Kindly take your seats. Last call to take a seat in the plenary for Beyond the Horizon, the future of the framework agreement for research and innovation, about to start in the plenary right now. Last chance to grab a seat. Okay, I hope you had a great break, did some good networking. Did the exhibition appeal to you all? Yeah, more over this side than this side. Did the exhibition appeal to you? Okay, all right, I understand. Let's get the energy high, though, for the next framework agreement, Beyond the Horizon. And to set the tone and introduce where we're going with this strategically, I'd like to ask Ileana back up to the stage, please. A round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is really a pleasure for me to open this session dedicated to the next framework program for research and innovation. We have just heard about what our excellent researchers have been able to achieve with EU support. How the previous framework programs nurtured brilliant ideas and delivered solutions to improve people's lives. We will need much more of such ideas and such support if we are to succeed in the green and digital transitions while making sure we keep our competitive edge. From Horizon 2020 evaluation, we already know we need to do better to broaden participation, to further simplify, to reinforce the dissemination, exploitation, and deployment of results, to support the participation of women, and enhance synergies with other initiatives. We started working on this for the remaining of Horizon Europe. At around mid-2025, the Commission will put forward the proposal for the next framework program for research and innovation. And this will be based on solid evidence, in particular evaluations from past and present programs, economic analysis, and foresight studies. A high-level expert group on the interim evaluation of Horizon Europe will provide strategic advice and concrete suggestions on how the program can help us deliver concrete suggestions, scientific, economic, to meet those scientific and economic challenges while remaining flexible as well as attractive. We will be working on an inclusive way to shape this proposal together with the member states, with the regions, with the local authorities, with all relevant stakeholders, such as universities, research organizations, industry, and the public. It goes without saying that the European Parliament and the Council, as institutional stakeholders, will play a crucial role in that process. And I'm confident that by working together with the national and regional level, but also with the private sector and the investors, we can continue to enhance our action for our common future. This week's event is an important milestone in this journey, and we are very eager to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Setting the scene and also the discussion for the next few minutes all around the framework program. So the goal really right now is to hear the views from 3 different representatives, prominent speakers from the European Parliament, from the member states, and experts in research and innovation. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the 3 panelists we have, 2 of which are online, but here at the stage, Mr. Frank Montanet. Frank, come and join us, please. Director General of Research and Space at the Belgian Federal Science Policy Office, BELSPO. Thank you, Frank. Please, wherever you want, left or right. Doesn't mean anything about your political persuasion. Oh. And you are also responsible for federal research programs here in Belgium.
Exactly.
And you participate in the international space programs. You're head of the Belgian delegation to the European Space Agency. So a very warm welcome to you. And online, hopefully on our screen, we also have Professor Maria Chiara Carrozza. I'm afraid I probably totally messed up your name. Maria is good, though. Maria is good?
Yes, Maria is okay for me.
It's a start. You're president of the, my Italian, honestly, to give me this now. Consiglio Nazionale delle Ricerche. Is a professor?
You can do better, but it's
Thank
okay.
you. With a bit of practice. I'm just happy I can still speak English. You are Professor of Industrial Bioengineering and Biorobotics at the Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, of which you are the rector. You're a member of the expert group on the interim evaluation of Horizon Europe, which we heard a little bit about earlier from the minister. And you are aiming to complement the interim evaluation of this Horizon Europe program with independent expert advice. So you're producing a report on how the framework program can continue to add value, learn from the experiences, and not only into the remaining of Horizon Europe, but also for the future. So a very warm welcome, Maria.
Thank you.
And just to keep things consistent, we have another Maria with us, Maria Carvalho, member of the European Parliament. You are a member of ITRE, PECH, FEMM, and IMCO, and Frank's going to explain these abbreviations too. No, I'm joking. Of those committees, you are a rapporteur of legislation, and you relate to the EIT, the joint undertakings, and you're a former senior advisor to the former Commissioner, Carlos Moedas, from, of course, the innovation sector. So, Maria, a very warm welcome to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for being with us. Now, let me start with the very first question, if we can, in our panel session. And Italian Maria, as I butchered your name, let me put this to you first, if I may. Could you tell us one aspect that you think needs to be kept in terms of the next framework program, and why you think it needs to be kept?
First of all, we have to keep the investment. So to continue to invest in research and innovation with a multi-year vision, because this is fundamental for keeping the European research area, our value, and the idea that Europe must be a place where we attract and retain talents, when we can produce innovation, and we protect freedom in research, autonomy, and also the ability of converting research into innovation and starting up. So I think that Horizon Europe is a success in that respect, and we have to continue to have this long-term vision on research for many, many years and beyond.
Frank, let me put that to you. Would that be your key priority as well? Financing, funding?
No, I would go for another priority. If we were to maintain one aspect that we really should maintain, in our opinion, it would be synergies. While there is currently a focus on synergies with structural funds, it's certainly worldwide and it should be continued, but we would invite the European Commission and all of us to develop a more holistic view on the European funding ecosystem. And to achieve that, a long-term vision and a well-coordinated approach are necessary, as well as a structured dialogue, both at the policy level and at the operational level, to make those synergies really happen. How to do that? We would be in favor to harmonize the various funding mechanisms that exist at the European level, and search for complementarity between the different European programs. And to facilitate such an objective, we would go for two approaches. First of all, we think it would be very useful that the European programs, the different European programs, should be positioned as part of a European funding ecosystem, according to the respective fundamental characteristics and aims. And if all of the major EU programs would be described in such a multidimensional framework, we think that the submitters would have it more easy and would experience less problems in choosing the most appropriate funding tool. Second, we think that the policy level at the European level could be somewhat more coordinated, and that because that is instrumental to tighten the links between the various programs, and it would offer a framework that would allow to identify promising project results and to guide them to other EU programs that could valorize them at the maximum. There are a number of good examples at the moment. You have the coordinated plan on artificial intelligence, the European Cancer Plan. For example, the coordinated plan on artificial intelligence, the different actions are assigned partly for implementation across Horizon Europe, and otherwise for the R&I activities, research and innovation activities, and partly to Digital Europe for the rollout of the skills and the skills-related activities and other ones. We think it's that kind of vision, we should go on with that. But there is one challenge to that, and then I end.
The challenge for what we should keep? Okay.
That is, if you do this kind of coordinated policy planning, you should also achieve practical guidelines on how to combine these various programs. And that is not so easy. We have the experience on the guidelines with the structural funds, how to use them complementary to the framework program, and it learned us that it's not that easy to do it, but we think it's really necessary, and it's a great opportunity to do so.
Fantastic. Last but not least, Maria, from a European Parliament perspective, what would you like to keep, the one aspect you'd like to keep about the current program, and why would you keep it?
I would like to keep the pace of increasing of budget that we had in the last framework programs. We are commemorating the 40 years of framework program, and to remind you 6 framework program at around 16 billion, the 7 framework program 50, after the 9, 95, and now we have in the European Parliament started campaigning asking for 200 billion for the framework program. Not only to keep this pace but of the increase, but we are aware of the big challenge that we have in front of us from the more fundamental point of view that we need to invest in science, but also for the competitiveness of our industry and our economy. The next few years are going to be the years that we need really to invest in competitiveness of our industry, and for that we need the partnerships, we need the innovation. So we have a lot of challenge, and we would like to keep the beauty of the multitude of different flavors of Horizon Europe that has now the more fundamental research with the ERC, the Marie Curie, but also the partnerships, the EIT, the EIC, and the widening that is so important and should be increased. So we would not like to have a streamlined FP10, like some voices are already raising, that we should have a more simple and only 1 or 2 instruments. I think that the beauty of this framework program is exactly to have in the same program fundamental research and more applied. Of course, they need to be better connect to each other, but it's very important to keep this multitude of multiplicity of different instruments of Horizon for the next framework program.
Maria, many thanks. I'm sure there are many things that you would like to keep, but we asked for just one aspect. I'm now going to hand over to my co-moderator. She's the Deputy of the Director General for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. And Joanna, come and join us on the stage. It's Joanna Drake, please. So over to question number 2. What should now be changed about the framework? I think that's the question we're posing. Joanna, to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for starting in. And hello to everyone. Hello to the speakers, all the speakers. Okay, so now we've concentrated on, the positive aspects, what you want to maintain. But I really want us now to be a little bit more critical, and not rather critical, but rather construct a better future. Shall we call it that way? What's one thing that you would like to change in the future framework program? And who would like to start? I don't know who started before. Okay, Maria Chiara.
Yes, thank you very much, Joanna. I think that I said before that I would like to keep Horizon Europe and the new framework program, because it is important to create the ecosystem in Europe. What I would like to change is to introduce more fundamental research in the program, because I strongly believe that in order to push innovation and also the translation of science into technology, we have to address many scientific questions which are still open and fundamental in order to produce, for example, clean energy, to understand the issues of the matter and the universe, to understand better the brain, to understand many areas where we still need more fundamental research. If we have to address, for example, the twin transition, so to have the green transition and the digital transition, we still need a lot of fundamental research in order to develop new systems in order to produce energy, new system to, for example, address climate change modeling, and to understand better the effect on the world and on the planet. It is our relationship with the planet which is at risk, and we need competences, need more researchers and more research in order to address these challenges. So in future, if we have to be ready for new pandemics, for new challenges, we need researchers, we need research infrastructure. So I strongly think that we need large research infrastructure in Europe, And we need more competence on the fundamental issues. So even in Pillar 2 and in other pillars, beyond European Research Council, we need more fundamental research. And then in the European Research Council is something which is so important and which is distinctive for Europe and well known as one of the most successful experiments. So we have to continue to support it because this is an example of democracy, of freedom, of autonomy, of research communities to be able to produce and select proposals. But we know that many proposals are rejected because of the budget that we have. So I suggest to increase the budget for the European Research Council. And also, in addition, the European Innovation Council is something which is important. And so I would like to change and to pay attention to the European Innovation Council, which is an important tool for accelerating the conversion of science into technology and strengthen our industry in Europe.
So quite a long wish list there. So more money, more fundamental research, more research to help us solve the problems and maybe improve our relationship with the planet and making us go faster towards the transition, whether it's the digital or whether it's the green. And yes, more fundamental problems. But I wonder, what's the view from the Parliament, Maria Gracia?
Yeah, I would add to the list a better link between the fundamental research and the more applied research. I think that for the time being, there is a lot of separation and there is not enough flow from the results of the fundamental research to the more applied research. For example, take the clean aviation. You have the partnership, but the fundamental research is scattered in other programs, is not in contact with the development of the demonstrators of the clean aviation itself. And this is an example. There are more examples. I think that they need to work together in a cycle that from the fundamental is applied and from the demonstration goes back to the applied research for further development.
You mean more deployment? You mean more deployment? You mean more pipelines?
But a better link between the fundamental research and deployment. But it needs to go hand in hand. You need the fundamental research that to be the basis for the deployment. And they need to work together. And a good example is what we are doing at the moment with that is part of Horizon Europe with the AI factors, the artificial intelligence factors that we are developing, the supercomputers, the research and development. I'm a rapporteur of this, the skills and the facility for companies, small and medium enterprise startups and big companies to use these facilities and to enter into AI. So from the fundamental research, infrastructure, skills, research, all the way to the application. That is the way to go, mostly in these emerging technologies, because it's based on these emerging technologies that has the support of the fundamental research and of the skills that we will build a competitive Europe.
So you're more looking at it from a structural deficit, if you like, of the whole ecosystem point of view.
Yes.
And I think, what you address is looking more at what we would like Europe to be in terms of leadership as well on translating our research into industrial competitiveness, if you like, having much more contribution, direct contribution to our strategic autonomy. These are all big sounding words, but in fact, what we're looking at is real solutions on the ground. And this is why now I turn to Frank. From the member states' point of view, I know they all have different perspectives, but when you're around the table, what would you say you would like to improve, change, construct better?
Well, one of the points we would put on the table, and it's I'm building on what has been said by other speakers on budget issues, is that we think it's important that we could assure during the deployment of the program the stability of the budget. We would prefer that the budget allocation and the priorities in the framework program as stable as possible and as flexible as necessary. And I know that's a bit ambiguous, but we think that's important to fully achieve the goals of the different strategic and operational plan that are below, that are making the program happen. And we have seen in the recent years that, that several priorities were headed en cours de route, as we say in Belgium, sometimes without a clear link to research and innovation, often because there was some political urgency, because there were teams popping up and they needed to be handled. But this tends to make the program quite complex, and it increases a fragmentation of budgets.
But may I ask you about this? Are you against that the program actually is able to be agile enough and flexible enough to respond to these exigencies? If we're really talking about leadership, if we're talking about strategic autonomy, I think agility is part of that game.
Absolutely, and that was going to be the end of my intervention. That is, agility and responsiveness, they are obviously very important, that we should have agile programs, that's clear, but that can be foreseen in the program design, and we think it's very important that if you do that, that there is a maximum of transparency from all sides, combined with a careful evaluation and communication about the added value. And that's something that could be improved in the future.
I love to hear that, because I believe that, yes, added value is there. We have no doubt about it. One evaluation after another proves it. And I think the ecosystem is visibly being fed by this also stability over 40 years of a program that has kept on investing, and investing always to a larger budget, but also a larger ecosystem and larger number of instruments as well. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure whether, we're really reaching out to actually explain even more and on a more frequent, shall we say, regular basis to everyone, to citizens, to those who are thinking about careers even, what exactly has this program produce in terms of new skill sets, maybe new career opportunities, apart from the innovations, apart from the solutions, and apart also from making us look even better serving our own ambitions on the global political stage. I'm not talking only about the Green Deal, I'm talking about so many other challenges that we're looking up to. But I think now we need to come to the crunch. And it's always at the end of the day, we have all very good ideas, and I really respect the fact that you are dedicating your lives to this area and to really making Europe on the edge, really, on the competitive edge. But at the end of the day, it's about how are we going to do it? In the sense, the how, and how are we going to change all this? What are the mechanics? What are the mechanisms? What should we stop doing and maybe doing better? But also, what am I going to do from my angle? So from your point of view, as a dedicated researcher, Maria Chiara, yourself from the Parliament, and also from a dedicated research policy from the Member States' point of view, what are we going to change in order for these things to happen? What am I going to do about it? I don't know whether Frank would like to start this time.
Okay, why not? Generally speaking, what we think, I'm speaking a bit for Belgium here, of course, is that we think that strengthening the Member States' support to the strategic planning and comitology processes of the next framework program would constitute an important and cross-cutting factor of change. What do we mean of that? We are in favor of engaging together with you and the other Member States, of course, in a reflective process about some of the priority-setting procedures. We should notably consider how to encourage an early and continuous involvement of the Member States. For instance, how that the Member States can transparently engage and provide their overview of their own set of priorities and planned activities from the start of the reflection process, so contributing to the elaboration of the first proposals of the strategic plan and the work programs before they are even released, co-creation, let's put it like that. And we should furthermore assess carefully and objectively how the strategic planning and comitology procedures can be optimized in terms of stronger member states' involvement in the design and the content of the work programs and the plans, and potentially create leaner procedures elsewhere. We believe that contributing to a more responsible and accounting co-creation and implementation for both the Commission and the Member States, it would contribute also to a complementarity, as you mentioned, between the funding at the EU and at the national level.
So, co-creation, cooperation, perhaps even earlier planning, as you said. and at the end of the day, the implementation that needs to also be followed up. But what about the Parliament? How do you see it from your point of view? What needs to be changed and what the Parliament can do to help this change?
Actually, we are quite worried in the Parliament, or some of the friends of research and innovation inside the Parliament. We are worried about the future, and because of that, we have started a campaign. Mainly myself and my colleague Christian Eller, pushing for an ambitious framework program with a higher budget and that can cover components that will give us well-being, so fundamental research for health, for all the areas that are so important for the well-being of the society, but also that solutions for climate change and environment and the development of the technologies and the use of the technologies that are so important for the competitiveness of our industry. And for that, with all these components, we really need an ambitious framework program, and we have started with this campaign. We are worried about other contradictory message from member states, from other priorities that are going around, both inside Commission, inside Parliament, inside the member states. We really need to gather together with the friends of R&I and speaking out and speaking loudly, defending the framework program.
May I ask,
this is our plan.
may I dare to ask you, what's really worrying you? Is it the budget? Is it the process? Is it that, this has not been appreciated enough, what we've been saying?
No, it is mainly the budget vis-a-vis other priorities that are important, and we cannot deny that are important, and that need to... we need also to find solutions for these areas, but we have to be innovative and imaginative to find the budget for these new priorities that are now on the table, like defense, security, and these are expensive areas that we need to find a solution, and we are working for this solution.
And defense and research is part of that.
Yes,
it's part of the pipeline. It lies
but we
really
really
at the
need
start.
to push that. We need to push this idea that to have a defense policy, we need to have a strong research and innovation, that the defense is technology. A good defense is based on technology, on very high technology. But it's not going to be an easy way until we have FP10 with the ambition that we want. So we need to work hard.
And we are working hard, I can tell you, with yourselves, with the stakeholders, with all the group of experts. Maria Chiara is here, and I can tell you we share that ambition. And of course we shall be working hard, because we know after 40 years, and the member states know it as well, how much value to the economy, how much value to our education system, how much value to our competitiveness. Perhaps we need to make that link more visible, more understandable, more even comprehensible, and perhaps even more comprehensive, more holistic in explaining, why there's a finger in every pie, as it were, from the research and innovation area. But Maria Chiara, you are here. You are part of a group of experts, but yourself, you've had a very illustrious career, not only as a researcher, but also a professor of very new technologies. How do you see the future? In the sense, we've been mentioning, we took note of the wish list. We took note of what should change. But how are you going to help us change? And how are you going to make these improvements happen from where you sit?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. First of all, I feel responsible. So it's a great responsibility to try to define the guidelines for future, what we expect from future. So we know that the present is not very good, because we have wars, we have crises, we need food, we need clean energy. We have many, many questions, from what we are seeing today, from the crisis that we are living, asking for solutions that can be based only on research, because we don't have solutions. For example, for producing energy, we don't know exactly which is the solution for future needs. So we have to investigate and understand how to simplify the framework program, so how to make things simpler, so to maybe cancel some fragmentation, to have a global strategy on Horizon Europe, to be coherent, to have a multi-year perspective, but on the other hand, to be able to be more flexible and adaptive to the solution. So we maybe have to eliminate some prescription from the side of different calls. So to be more open to innovation and open to curiosity-driven research and open to more flexible solutions, not to try to define all details for future calls, because it is impossible. Science is evolving so fast. It is something which is now, for example, with artificial intelligence, is the scientific method is changing. The need for computational power, for infrastructure is so huge that we cannot define exactly what we expect from future. We can say we expect to create science to answer to the scientific questions, but we cannot define which technology will emerge. So it is better to invent a way for selecting the technology, for accelerating the production of technology, for testing technology, and also for transforming science and knowledge into technology. For example, we know that we are very good in producing science, in publishing science, but less good in scaling up results into startup and companies which are successful. So I think this is an area where we can improve our system to remove some bureaucracy and some obstacles like fragmentation of the regulatory issue, like regionalization of the approaches. We have to have a sort of global approach and put actors together, from regional actors to global actors, in order to scale up our solution and to be able to develop alliances and private-public alliances, because we know that in artificial intelligence, for example, or in space science, we need private-public partnership. We need more alliance, because without private funding, we will not be able to match this gap. That's also Maria from the European Parliament addressed this issue. So invest more on fundamental research, less prescription, and more listen and hear to the evolution of science. So we have to develop this ability of understanding the talents and the leadership and cultivate them, and create leaders and scientific leaders in Europe and trust them, from developing their fundamental research and also transforming their fundamental research into innovation in Europe, and demonstrate that Europe can be the appropriate environment for developing successful enterprise based on science. So this is my dream, to have to create a Europe which is based on creators of new companies and new business based on competence and science. And we have to simplify and be able to be more flexible and more open to leaders and less to prescription of what we expect for future, because we don't know exactly the future and the future technology that will be successful.
Thank you for that. Very inspirational. I mean, I really am tempted to come back to you, Frank, and see whether you agree with this. I mean, with this vision that, yes, to me it sounds more like, yes, let's have more research because we don't know what lies out there, what the solutions might be. Let's be all embracing, first of all, not prescriptive, simplify, encourage, incentivize for people to actually enter into research. But then likewise, have a good balance with a pipeline connected to an ecosystem which works. which basically encourages innovators, whether it's from the regulatory angle or for the financial access, because that is a big issue as well, and also having the scaling up facility, where we know that Europe is always the laggard when compared to the US and perhaps also to China. But, you know, this is the vision from somebody who is, of course, very knowledgeable about the research, also from the national angle. She herself is the chief executive of the CNR in Italy. But from the member state perspective, would you agree that this is what you look for when you look for, you know, the next framework program? Is it the one where you want to leverage your own innovators in Belgium to really feel that this is the European ecosystem you want them to plug into? Or do you just see it as a way of how your research budgets can also be enhanced via the framework program in collaboration with your own funding?
I think it's very difficult to be against what has been proposed. And I think it also is in line with what I said in my first intervention. That's very important at the European level, but also at the level with the different policy levels, that we design different programs that are complementary, and that we have an ecosystem where people with interesting ideas can flawlessly travel through from a regional or a national funding system into the European system, and vice versa, in order to become our society and our industry become more competitive and our society becoming more resilient.
So in a way, like a continuum, you know, people sitting in Belgium, sitting in Spain, sitting in Italy, in Portugal, in Malta, in Estonia, wherever, they could actually see, yes, Europe has an ecosystem where we could plug into our creativity, our research abilities, our technologies, our new creations, our innovations, and we can actually find a playing field, not only to test, but also to scale up. And I think this is maybe what we are looking for more and more. We only have 1 minute, 40 seconds, and we have to end this discussion soon. But I'm going to challenge you very quickly. I was meant to ask you what would be the 3 challenges that you see for the next framework program. I know we've been mentioning it a lot, but and we know what you have said regarding what you would like to tackle first. But I'm going to ask you only for one. What's your number 1 star student to tackle going in the next framework program? What's the number 1 challenge that you would really like to tackle? Maybe Maria Gracia. Is it the budget only, or one challenge? I challenge you.
Budget and simplification.
Okay, meaning the rules.
Yes.
And the governance, I suppose, as well.
Everything simple. The structure, the governance, the application forms, everything. The audits, simplify, 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 and higher budget.
Okay, message taken. Frank, what's your star student for the challenge?
Well, I would rather like to stress the importance of underpinning the selection of those challenges by scientific evidence, which is one of the priorities of the Belgian presidency. And we think it's not only important in decision-making, but also in the design of the program itself.
I like that. I like that. Maria Grazia, 14 seconds, 13 seconds. Your challenge.
First challenge to be
only one.
For Europe, the most important actor for science in the future compared to the US and China and the other part of the world. So to become the first actor and the first place where freedom and science are developed.
Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Maria Clara, Maria Grazia. Thank you for joining us.
Joanna, Maria, Frank, thank you so much for that. Very enlightening. Perfect. We'll take that off you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay around, because we looked into the future just now. Earlier, we looked a little bit into the past, but now we're going to be looking into the present, and especially the female present. We're about to start the European Prize for Women Innovators. So stick around. We're going to get straight in there in just 1 moment's time. Okay, there are a few seats which are free for those of you outside that would like to join us to celebrate women innovators. Please do. As you're probably well aware, this prize ceremony has been running for some time already. But this year we have a new category. So in addition to rising innovators, especially young females in the innovation space, which you will know, and the women innovators category, which you also know, we have a new category which is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology Women Leadership Award. So 3 awards about to be given here. What I'd like to do first is for us all to have a look at the finalists. We have a video prepared, and let's get to know our women innovators a little better. The 2024 finalists, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. Now I'm hearing you. I'd like to now welcome our host for this award ceremony to the stage to give a few words. Commissioner, would you please join us here? Liana Ivanova is well known. Tell us all about what this means to you as well and for our innovation in Europe.
Thank you. It's again me, but it's a great honor to share with you the celebration of the 10th edition of the European Prize for Women Innovators. Since the prize was first launched in 2011, the EU has awarded prizes to more than 30 inspiring women innovators and celebrated over 100 women shortlisted for the prize. European deep tech companies alone are now valued at a combined 700 billion euros and counting. Yet, the total capital in female startups invested in Europe accounts for less than 2%. Women remain severely underrepresented, not only in the access to finance, but also in decision-making, data used for algorithms, and an overall solutions design across the industries. And the Women's Innovators Prize sheds light on breakthrough and disruptive innovation led by women, changing the narrative about women in leadership and encouraging more women and girls to pursue a career in science and innovation. The second reason why this year is special is that for the first time ever, this prize is organized jointly by the European Innovation Council and the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. The EIC and the EIT have joined forces to create a bigger competition, rewarding an even wider community of women innovators. The new European Innovation Agenda has highlighted the importance of supporting women innovators for a strong European research and innovation ecosystems where all talents can thrive. The flagship on talents contains a number of dedicated actions for women leading deep tech innovation. This week, we launch a new Women Tech EU call, supporting early-stage deep tech startups founded and led by women. With a commitment of 15 million euros over 2 years, Women Tech EU will provide significant support to women entrepreneurs. Likewise, this week, the EIC Women Leadership Program is launching its 4th wave to enhance the skills of female entrepreneurs, offering guidance, mentoring, coaching. It makes a real impact on the careers of hundreds of women innovators from the EIC and the EIT portfolio to access leadership positions in business. This year's edition of the European Prize for Women Innovators broke the record for the number of applications ever submitted. Our jury had a particularly difficult task in deciding the winners, and they were blown away by the talented women who applied. In the end, 10 finalists stood out for their pioneering and game-changing innovations and helping to tackle global challenges. Among many remarkable examples, I was particularly impressed by the work on tackling deadly diseases like cancer, as well as for the use of new knowledge and tech to make our planet more sustainable. And the leadership of talented women like you helps us deliver more for our planet, our society, and our economy. Thank you very much.
Ileana, thank you. Would you stay with me, because we're going to get straight into the award ceremony. Let's go into the middle here, if we may. We mentioned we have 3 categories, and we're going to go straight in to the very first category, and that is the EIT Women Leadership Award. And so it's not just us 2 here on the stage. Let's get our finalists up here, shall we? I'd like to have Julia Bielitska, Denise Fici, Joe Lu. Come and join us here, thank you. Hello. So stand a bit closer together. And we also have online, Christina, can you hear us? Christina Portil.
Yes, hi everyone.
Now, we've had a brief taste of your innovation so far. We're going to get to know a little bit later, but we have the magic moment. And this is the envelope containing the winners and the runners-up for the 2024 EIT Women Leadership Award. It's your honor.
It is the moment. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Yes. So, congratulations to all the winners and the runners. And I start with 3rd place, which is Christina Pertil.
Christina!
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
2nd place goes to Denis Ficioglu. Congratulations. And
Who
of
could
course,
the winner be?
Who could the winner be except for Julia Bielecka?
Congratulations, Julia. And that's perfect, thank you. Here we have the trophy and the certificate, and Christina will get a certificate to you, to Ireland as well. Fantastic. I would like to have a quick photo taken, if we can. We have our photographer over here. If you wouldn't mind standing close together at this line. We have Christina as well in the photo. Right at the line, if we could, please. So we have Christina in the background in the photo as well. Okay, great.
Congratulations.
If I can ask for your attention over this side, if you just turn around. Christina, let me go to you first and just ask a question, if I may. So your innovation is all around improving the patient's recovery after invasive surgery. So what does this recognition mean to you? How does it help you, and how does it help your innovation into the future?
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, for the selection as a finalist. I am truly honored to be part of this amazing group of females and entrepreneurs. I think you are showing the innovation there on the screen. So
we are. We're just giving a taste of what you've done, Christina, so people can get a flavor for it. Of course, there's a lot more online. But how does this award help your innovation for the future?
Yeah, so I think this is a recognition, that's great, not just for myself, but also for our team at Plio Surgical and our mission to revolutionize gastrointestinal surgery. So this type of awards, give us a lot of confidence and energy to keep going and really showcase, the importance of our innovation and the work that we're doing.
Well, the best of luck for that. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Denise, I have a microphone here for you. Can you hold it? That's great. I can hold your certificate if you want, or you're not going to let go of that. No, I guess. So your work has had a profound impact on the oceans and the environment. What changes would you like individuals, but also governments, to make in regard to what you're doing?
Ooh, how much time do we have? I think it's a good start that we're recognizing the oceans and the importance of the oceans for our health and the health of our planet. But obviously, I would like to see even more support and more emphasis on creating a new ocean economy, a more regenerative ocean economy.
Well, let's put the certificate up there into social media, get a bit more energy going, a bit more publicity around it. Congratulations. Thank you. And finally, Julia, your inventive new foam packaging is really taking off. Congratulations for that already. But how will this prize help you and your company?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this recognition. Really means a lot. And yeah, it means a lot not only for myself, but for the company and the climate tag that we are tackling to solve. And of course, we will be moving forward and promoting our solution, getting more visibility, getting to our clients, and yeah, making the world a better place.
Fantastic. Julia, congratulations. Denise, Christina, the 2024 EIT Women Leadership Award winners. Thank you very much. Please, if you take your seat, thank you. Our second category, Liana, is the Rising Innovators. So this is all about younger, under 35 years of age, female entrepreneurs, and, well, it's all about giving as well visibility and exposure to, if you like, fresh thoughts and younger people. So again, let's have the finalists up on stage. We have everyone present here today. I'd like to ask Eva Sadun, Barbara Oliveira, Sara Correo Plaza, and Maria Gonzalez Manzo. Come and join us here. Get closer. Good.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So, the same procedure. Rising Innovators is the correct envelope.
Rising Innovators. And the third place goes to two winners, Barbara Oliveira and Eva Sadun.
Congratulations, Barbara and Eva.
Congratulations.
It was so tight this time, we had two third places, an absolute draw.
As I said, it was very difficult to take a decision. Now, the second place goes to Sara Correo Plaza. Congratulations.
Sara.
And surprise, the winner, Maria Gonzalez Manzo.
Maria, congratulations. Okay. And here comes the trophy for Maria.
Congratulations.
Let's line up now for the photographer here. If you could just stand here, Ileana. That's perfect. There we go. The photographer does his stuff. Great, well done. And let's turn around if we can, so we face this side of the audience. Woo, woo, woo. Eva first. I have a question. So you're an activist as well as being an entrepreneur, so you're driven very much by a social mission as well as an entrepreneurial one. So what does it matter to be recognized in this way in terms of socially responsible entrepreneurship? Let me give you the mic.
I don't know, I'm happy to be seen also as an entrepreneur. But I mean, it's quite complicated for of type of innovation because we are trying to transform the financial system, we're trying to transform the economic paradigm. So I think it's way more complicated to figure sometimes, but actually, if this system is not changing, those companies will never get the fund that we need. You were talking about the fund. The main issue we have as a woman and is to be considered as economically like suitable. And so if we don't make those type of innovation bigger, and if we let the traditional financial system tackle those issues, I mean, it's hopeless. So that's what it means to me.
And I'm sure through the award you're finding lots more of co-collaborators, I think, also from the younger generation, where hopefully there's a stronger emphasis on social impact. Thank you. Congratulations again. Barbara, you're developing treatments for the side effects of chemotherapy. How does it feel, even though you're in quite an early stage, but how does it feel that the jury believes absolutely in what you're doing and it's going to be very successful?
Well, feels very good, obviously. So thank you so much for the award. I think the award is the recognition that we need to focus on the lesser heard voice, which in our case has been very much women coming from STEM, and that's really our mission in Luminate as well, is focusing on the patient and what we can do for them. So it's really important to get the belief from the juries that we can be successful and to get this recognition so we can get our mission further and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to ask us to face this side of the audience one more time, if I may. And Sarah, come to you. You're not only a female in STEM, but you're also an aerospace engineer. It must be quite a lonely planet sometimes, I think, there. What message will this award help you to send to women and girls to get into STEM and to get into your space?
Well, thank you very much. For me, it's pretty amazing to be here. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch like space films, and all the main characters were always men, no? And I also wonder if there were women working in the space industry. Then, of course, I started reading more, and I realized that they were, but they were just not being, they were just not there, no? They were not being visibilized. So the fact that I received this award for me, it's also like I'm feeling very happy because we are now, little girls can know that we are here. There is a lot of women working in the space industry and making great contributions.
Congratulations. Thank you. And Maria, that's it. One hand for the award, one for the mic. So your patient-focused, your empathetic healthcare approach obviously won the award here, but also has proven that AI can be a force for good. A lot of skepticism, a lot of worry and concerns around AI, but it's well proven already in Spain, in the UK, and in Portugal. So congratulations for that. What's next on that journey, and what will you do with this prize to help fuel that journey?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the award. So it's true, there is a lot of skepticism in AI, and specifically in AI in healthcare. But we do believe that if done properly, it can save lives directly. So we are creating safe and clinically validated AI technology, not only for Spain, Portugal, and the UK, but globally. So this award also gives the visibility for all the European regions on how they can leverage technology to improve life quality of patients and also to improve the healthcare systems that are sometimes constrained in terms of resources. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And this, ladies and gentlemen, are your Rising Innovators 2024. Thank you. It's already our final category. Thirdly, for Women Innovators. And we're going to be joined here on stage by Natalia Tomiyama. Come and join us, please. Hi, Natalia. Nice to see you. Hi there. And we also have with us online Elena Garcia Armada.
Hi, everyone.
And Rana Sanyal.
Hi, everybody.
I have one envelope left, so we must be down to the surprise moment. Who has won Women Innovators 2024?
So I start with third place, Elena Garcia Armada. Congratulations.
Elena.
Thank you.
Second place, Natalia Tomiyama.
Natalia.
Congratulations. And winner, Rana Sanyal.
Rana, congratulations. Let's get the trophies here, but before I do that, Rana has a colleague here as well, and that's Minella Arslan. Come and join us, Minella, if you would, please. You coordinated the project. You're taking the trophy then on the behalf of your entire team, including Rana. Well done. Now we need to look for the photographer one more time. Would you mind stepping forward a little bit over this way so we can get the other two ladies? And just step forward here, a little bit towards your left, a little bit more, over here, over here. I think we're good. Okay? Great. So let me come over here. I'm going to, again, ask a couple of questions to you all. Elena, I'd like to start with you, if I can, please. So your work is already well established and recognized in Spain. And you even have a school near to Cadiz, which is in your name, is what I understand. Congratulations.
Yes, right.
What does this recognition mean now on a European international scale?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much to the support from the European Innovation Council. You're right that we are making a big change in the therapy of children affected by neuromuscular diseases, and we are now restoring functional capabilities and life quality of thousands of children around 7 countries. But we need to make a boost in Europe, in the European countries, and I'm pretty sure that this award will make this boost, will help us grow in Europe across all the European countries, and therefore providing a greater quality of life to all these children. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. Natalia, I'm over here. Let me come to you then, if I can, and give you the mic as well. So your e-trailer for both pedestrians and bikes, we're going to see a video of it just here, is a game changer really when it comes to e-commerce, to take the congestion out of our cities, improve the noise and the air pollution situation as well. Now, you're already working with very large corporations, I understand, like UPS and Amazon and IKEA. What's next? I mean, you've already cracked it. Isn't that enough?
Well, thank you very much, and I'm so happy to be here and represent my company, Newville. And yes, and indeed, we have more than 500 trailers implemented at Belgium Post. So that means that our e-trailers are in 64 locations already today. So it's quite interesting to be here as well. What it means, what next is, I think when I moved to Europe, I've been struggling to move heavy and bulky goods. And the only alternative back that time was to drive a car. And I want to give back and bring our solution to the private market as well, to empower and encourage all other younger people, also people who do not have driving license, who cannot drive, to be able to move heavy and bulky goods in cities in a different way, more sustainable, more efficient, and more inclusive.
Well, hearty congratulations. Thank you so much, Natalia. I'm going to now face into the camera again and ask Rana, you've built quite an amazing career when we see your resume in drug research and development. And you've also been a very strong advocate for women in science and in business. In your core team, you have over 85% females, and you have supported over 300 students in your activities. What will this award mean to them especially, and what will it mean for others you would like to take along on your journey?
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm deeply honored to be receiving this most prestigious award. I'm grateful to EIC and EIT for their unwavering support for women in innovation. This recognition, as you mentioned, is not just a personal achievement, it's a symbol for collective efforts of women scientists and entrepreneurs worldwide. To me, we are all champions. Receiving this award is, I think, is an opportunity, a very powerful opportunity to inspire and empower the next generation of female entrepreneurs. So I would like to specifically thank to my incredible team of female and male scientists in Turkey, both at RS Research and at Boğaziçi University. Their dedication and brilliance have been the driving force behind our success, I think. I'm ecstatic that Minele is there on the stage representing all of us. Big heart to her receiving this award. And with this, I would like to thank to my fellow innovators also, who have been a great inspiration to me with their amazing work. Together, I think we can create a future where every aspiring scientist, regardless of their gender, has the opportunity to thrive and make a difference. We can continue to break barriers and change the narrative about women in leadership. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rana. And Minele, you must be very proud, I'm sure, about that. But what does it mean to have a leader like Rana to guide your way and give you energy and inspiration?
First of all, I'm really happy and that I had this opportunity to be here representing Dr. Rana. And thank you for the award on behalf of her name. I'm really extremely happy and so proud to be the part of this team, which is leading to developing the technologies which is really important for treatment of the patients who are in really urgent need.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to take a photo. If we can turn around, if you wouldn't mind, please, Daniela, just to face, Natalia, excuse me, to face the photographer there. One photo with your awards. Okay. And now I think we should get everybody on stage that's won tonight. Do you agree? Yeah, come on over. Come and join us. If you could huddle here, maybe in two lines, if that's okay. A little bit over here to the left, that's it. There we go. Come in tighter. Let's see. How are we there? Photographer, okay? Great. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 Women in Innovation. Okay, thank you so much and congratulations. Fantastic. Thank you. Wow.
Wow.
How can we top that? Impossible. But I think it's good to have some reflective words from you, if you wouldn't mind, to close this particular session. And I'm going to give a bit of housekeeping after that. But what do you think?
Wow. I'm truly impressed and inspired. And what's there more to say than sincere congratulations to all the winners, the runners-up, for their amazing achievements, for their inspiring example. I think you should be truly proud with yourselves because we are very proud with you. And you are the example to inspire our future women leaders, our girls, to follow that path, to show that inclusivity is the way how we can deliver best on our research and innovation program and for our future prosperity in the European Union. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Fantastic. I can say from a personal perspective as well, we have in the company where I work, the UK, not European, but unfortunately, maybe one day again, let's see. Anyway, moving on. We have the UK's STEM Apprentice of the Year, and she was inspired by someone like Rana as well to even go into STEM. So it's really important, I think, to show that leadership and inspiration so that we get more people into this innovative space. Let me just ask you one more time. You said that the applications were heavily oversubscribed. It was really, really busy. So how does the jury sift that out, and what do you expect then for next year? I mean, we're going to have to give a lot more awards, aren't we?
It will be tougher and tougher. That's why I joined the call, and I'm really happy to hear all colleagues from the Parliament, the stakeholders, the call for a strong budget. That is why, because I think the best arguments is the success stories that we see today. This is the best argument why we need sustainable and strong budget for our next research.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Ileana. Okay, so we're slowly coming to the end of the formal presentations here in the plenary. Before we do go into the cocktail reception, just a word that we're starting tomorrow very punctually at 9 a.m. So if you want to secure a seat, and we're hoping it's going to be very, very busy, first come, first served, then please be here for 8:45, 10 to 9, so we can start punctually. Thank you very much for your attention today, this afternoon. This closes the opening ceremony, and now off for a cocktail. Thank you.